Hello, good morning and welcome to Newsfile. This is your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. Today, we have a two-topic news file. First, yes, no. Who must win the December 17 votes? Yes or no, and why? We'll also spend time on the 2020 budget. The finance minister says this is budget of money in your pockets. Can you confirm that? That as much as 12.2 billion has been put in your pocket so far. We'll be right back to deal with the vexed matters. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. I'm Samson Ladi Anyanini. So, I'll just share a brief of my take with you and then you get to read it later. Now, if you thought that I was going to write about a referendum or some MMBC elections, you are wrong. As I said last week, I'm not on a campaign, and I believe that my job is practically done. What I sought to do has provoked writings and a certain, wave in tsunamic proportions, and so I suppose I should lay that to rest. And in fact, my guests are here to discuss that matter today. So my take is titled Guta, Civil Service, Judiciary, and Judge Yabua. I use the take to point to a fact that one of the first lessons a law student will learning about natural law, among others, is to be told, quite frankly, that when law is not implemented, when law is not applied, it leads to certain absurd situations and consequences for the state. My point is this. Guta has been running amok, locking up shops of foreigners engaged in retail trade in flagrant violation of the law. The mostly Nigerian traders seem to dominate the vehicle spare parts and electrical material retail markets in the country, despite the law's prohibition, are the ones who have been crying, whilst they too have been actually violating the law. Authorities over the years have only enforced the law in rhetoric and threats by warning notices. The unlawful actions of Guta have repeatedly, expectedly resulted in dangerous confrontations, loss and destruction of shops and their contents. The local traders consistently justify their conduct, blaming local authorities, the police, the Ghana Investment Promotion Council, the Trade Ministry and government of inaction. Their leaders have told me right here on Newsfile how they have become fed up with empty promises to crack the whip. I tell them they can only lock up those shops by the express orders of a court, and they reply that they do not have the time and money to waste going to court to ventilate their grievances. Yes, corrupt police officers will accept bribes from the violating foreign traders. The courts may take forever coming to the obvious verdict to uphold the law, but these fears and the inaction of government still do not justify the unlawful conduct of the local traders. I make a point that within the same civil service, taking the judiciary for example, where people complain of slow and delay in the process. There are cases that have taken 20 odd years There's a case that has taken 40 odd years, and the CJ then, Georgina Wood, had the opportunity to complain and describe that as a parody of justice. But within the same judiciary system, we have seen cases or litigations that have traveled not more than 6 months. I have personally seen that happen. In fact, I have seen cases that have done 2 weeks and they've been dispensed with so expeditiously. Within the same court, where people go seeking for basic things that they are entitled, and they are told, go come, go come, go come, you have judges like the judge I name here, Justice Anthony Yeboah, whose court, you do a case today, the next minute you move out, you can get your judgment. But other people will follow the same thing in other courts for perhaps months and will not get it. So excellence is possible in the civil service. We just need to enforce the laws. Thank you very much. Now, let's get to today and my guests to do this discussion for the first segment. And this is between now and 10:30. And my guest for this segment, Abdul Malik Kukuba, co-editor-in-chief of the New Crusading Guide newspaper. He's a regular panelist. I do not know yet. He seemed to have been getting to know. I don't know if he's no or he's yes. Where are you? Where are you?
You'll get to know based on my submission.
Okay. All right. Also here in the studio is Dr. Michael Peso-White. He's Senior Research Fellow, University of Ghana. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
You are an obvious no, and I've seen some of your writings, very insightful. Also here in the studio is Yao Boabeng Asamoah. He's a lawyer, he's MP and Director of Communications of the New Patriotic Party. He certainly cannot
resounding yes.
Cannot belong to no. Yes.
A resounding yes.
Thank you. Also here in the studio is Justice Strem Sai. He's lecturer, Gimpa Faculty of Law. He's also been writing quite profusely and educating the public on the subject. He is a definite setting, no campaigner. Welcome, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Right. So, if I may start with Justice Sai, but we start, let's start from Parliament. You know, on the 29th of June or July, this matter first came up in the House, where there was debate, very, very engaging debate, and the MPs, you know, contributed extensively. And the NDC, clearly, in Parliament, was for this. You know that now they have done a press conference, and they take a different view. That's the National Executive Committee, whipping everybody in line. The chiefs, National House of Chiefs, have also waded in. Of course, there are several civil society organizations also who think otherwise. Now, this is what happened in Parliament. Let's have a foretaste of that. Obi Amwa, who began the discussion in Parliament. Let's listen to him.
We as political parties, it would be to our benefit that we ensure that we get a yes vote because we want to sponsor candidates for these elections. Now, if you go to them now without amending, the political parties may be lukewarm because you haven't taken that decision to elect MMDC. So why are you coming to us that whether we should be involved or not? It's not for us to decide that it should be on partisan basis. If they should be elected, it's the people who should decide. But we have been given the power. We have been given the power under 2431 that once we amend it because it's not entrenched, then the entrenched part is the work of the electorate under the referendum.
Every single political party must have an interest in all these elections. The fact that we don't have party colors doesn't mean we don't have an interest. In fact, it would be hypocritical not to have an interest. Mr. Speaker, and that is why we must go by this step first. First of all, we must remove the power of the president. We must accept the offer by the president so we give power back to the people. We are a conduit today. We are a conduit. If, Mr. Speaker, if we don't all support this bill, what we are doing is that we are standing against the people because we are refusing. The president wants to give power to the people. He can't give it directly, and we are refusing.
We do not find the amendment to Article 2431 alone sufficient and adequate. It needs to be done comprehensively with other provisions of 243, and it must work through the same elaborate constitutional process defined in Article 291 of the Constitution. And Mr. Speaker, let the Ghanaian people be told that nobody on this side or in the NDC is against the elective principle of MMDCs. What we have said is that further engage or consult, or will help you give a terminal keys to this proposed constitutional amendment by refusing not to go with you. It lies within our right. But we should be looking at deeper accountability. And Mr. Speaker, this will also help resolve the conflict between DCs and MPs. When they are your office, now they can also go and run for district chief executive, and that may minimize the conflict.
And to state without any equivocation that the minority supports the attempt to have district assemblies or district chief executives elected. This is a matter that is not only limited to the 2000 and 2016 manifestos of the NPP, but engaged the minority, the NDC, in deep thought and consideration because of the ramifications of such amendments. To show our commitment that we are committed to both elections and also elections on partisan basis. If we don't amend 248 and we go and then we subsequently amend by deletion 55(3), we will still not be able to carry out elections on the basis of political parties sponsoring candidates at district assemblies. That is not possible because 248 will still stand in the way of political parties participating in sponsoring candidates at the district assembly. So, Mr. Speaker, that is the argument. So, whilst I agree that we could start with 243, but then also, if we are committed to political parties participating, let's add 248 at this stage to the process before we even go to the referendum.
Oh, I think I'd rather start this way. This is how you came, the debate started in Parliament, and you are in Parliament. First of all, as you listen to the honourable members debating, you'd hear Obi Amwa suggest, and then you hear Joe Gate also suggest, and actually state emphatically that the president wants to give the people the power to elect their DCEs, MMDCEs, but the parliamentarians are standing in the way of doing so if they don't go for a referendum. Do you gather that this is where the mislabeling and misinformation began?
Thank you very much, Samson. Thank you to your viewers this morning. If you use the word mislabeling, then I'm happy, because it would mean that there isn't a fundamental difficulty about what we have to do. It's rather the way it's been put. Then it means that in principle, what we are pursuing is the right thing to do.
The president has been saying, vote yes, so you can elect your DCs.
Yes.
And this is how, even in Parliament, the discussion began.
Because in
and Parliament, that was wrong,
right? The drift was that do 55(3) first. That was the drift. Do 55(3) first to give meaning to 2431. And what arguments were being made on the majority side, Obi Amwa, Joe Gate, and others, was that let us rather do 2431, because that is within our jurisdiction. And that will send a clear signal to the people out there that we are committed. Government and the political parties are committed to that process. Then the people, based on that commitment, can then change 553.
Okay, so we'll get to the substance.
Yes.
But this is just the aspect which has led the NCC last week to come out to give clarification that when you are going on December 17 to the polls, you are not voting yes so your DC or MC can be elected. That's not what it is.
Absolutely not.
But initially, that is what was going on. And the question I'm asking is, the misconception and the confusion began from the House.
Not really.
Not really?
No, not really.
When Joe Gatti said, the president wants to give the people the power to elect their DCs.
Yes.
And we are preventing that if we don't allow a referendum.
No.
What did he mean?
No. Joe Gatti, at stake in the House was whether or not we will get a majority, which includes the NDC, to pass 2431. And that is what he was arguing for.
Okay.
That as long as the minority stands in the way of the passage of 2431, we cannot progress to a referendum.
Okay.
Where the people will then bring in the parties. So he was arguing that it is in the interest of the parties in Parliament to pass 2431 in order to free the people to proceed to amend 55.3 and enable the very same parties in Parliament to participate. That was the argument he was making.
And 2431 of the Constitution says, there shall be a district chief executive for every district who shall be appointed by the president with the prior approval of not less than 2/3 majority of members of the assembly present and voting at the meeting. This is what you need to make MMDCs elective. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay.
Once the president gives out his power, 2431, and it is within the jurisdiction of Parliament, then MMDCs will also be elected, but on a personal, individual ballot.
How far have you gone with this process that you started debating?
2431.
Yes, on the 29th July?
We are done.
Yeah. You are done with it?
No, we haven't voted yet.
Okay.
All that is left is for the Speaker to put the question. The debate has been done, the arguments have been made. So where Parliament is now is to the Speaker to ask, do you approve? And then we vote.
When is he going to ask that? Thursday?
It's been scheduled twice.
Okay.
But I believe that, let's be real, let's face it, whatever is happening in public impacts what happens in Parliament.
Okay.
So to the extent that something that the NDC appeared to be focused on, and throughout the roadmap consultations, to the point where it popped up in Parliament, they were even in Parliament arguing that we should have been dealing more with 55.3 than otherwise. Now we have a situation where the National Party then says something else. That necessarily engages.
Some of the NDC MPs insisted that you should do your job first by taking away the power from the president before you go to a referendum. They were not opposed to the referendum. They said, we need you to take away the present power, which you, the members of Parliament, have the power to do. When you take away that power, the MMDCs have become elective.
Yes.
But to make it partisan, you have to go to a referendum.
Correct.
You wanted to go to a referendum before you come to Parliament.
No, not at all.
Okay.
Not at all.
Okay.
You see, that is where the real misconception arises. Not at all. The NDC in Parliament felt that if we didn't tie the two together, we would actually get approval to elect MMDCs and renege on the referendum.
Okay.
Their worry was that we will renege on the referendum.
They had fears.
Yes, they had fears.
That you will not make it partisan.
Exactly. Because they thought that once the president let go and other provisions were not then amended, including 55.3, then we would have our cake and be eating it and to their exclusion.
Okay.
So they were insisting that if we are going to do 2431 now, tell us what you are going to do about 55.3. That was part of the argument.
Let's get a bit of clarity on that. Let's hear Obi Amwa again. Because it does appear then at the time that Obi Amwa was supporting the minority. Let's hear him again. Obi Amwa. Let's hear Obi Amwa.
We as political parties, it will be to our benefit that we ensure that we get a yes vote because we want to sponsor candidates for these elections. Now, if you go to them now without amending, The political parties may be lukewarm because you haven't taken that decision to elect MMDC. So why are you coming to us that whether we should be involved or not? It's not for us to decide that it should be on partisan basis. If they should be elected, it's the people who should decide. But we have been given the power. We have been given the power under 2431 that once we amend it because it's not entrenched, then the entrenched part is the work of the electorate under the referendum.
The majority was being asked questions. Why are you here and not telling us exactly what will happen to 55.3? Because if we do this, we want 55.3 to happen. You understand? This is the innate.
So he was saying you should show commitment first by amending and removing the president's power.
Correct.
Then MMDCs have become elective.
Then
whether they become partisan or not, you go to the people.
Then we can go to the people. And we go to the people with credibility. Because we go to the people and tell them that we have done what we need to do. Now, do it and get involved.
Okay.
Then you have something to show the people.
Right.
But you can't go to the people first and say, do this, when there's no basis for it.
He was also saying that that is an incentive for the political parties. Because once you do this, all the political parties, you are going to sponsor candidates, you will benefit. Therefore, you will campaign for a yes vote.
Yes, you see,
okay.
Let me say something here. The issues that have come up are genuinely against political parties. But the question at stake, 62 years of independence, how many of those years have political parties participated?
Okay, we'll go there right away. Now, Justice, you have also been writing and seeking to educate about what has become the misconception. From listening to the members in Parliament, are they the ones who began all of it, or you feel that it is mischief? Because we have heard people suggest that it's mischief and that it was the government which is seeking a yes. That's why you have the president actually saying, vote yes so your MMDCs will be elected, when in fact, that is not the truth.
Yeah, thank you. See, for every political project, there are two things. What the politicians want, and then what the people want. Sometimes what the politicians want will coincide with what the people want. When those times come up, you don't see things like this happening. What is happening is as simple as this. The politicians want something. The people want some other thing. Now, the politicians need, in this instance, the people to agree with what they want, and the people are becoming alert and not agreeing to what the politicians want. Let me explain. There is actually no inherent link between Article 2431, which says that MMDC should be appointed, and Article 55.3, which says that local government elections should be done apolitical. There's no inherent link. The only link we are having here is because the politicians are connecting the two. You don't need a referendum to make MMDC electable. You don't need a referendum. So the people want MMDCE to be what? Elected. Once you want to do what the people want, you can do that in Parliament without all this challenge. The problem here is that some way, somehow, the politicians seem to want to give the people what they want, but give them in a way that they can get their way. I mean, the politicians can get their way. The thing about local government elections or local government, everywhere you go in the world, where they are not political, okay, where they are not based on political parties, local governments become stronger and they entrench democracy. If you go to some states in Canada, in the US, where they are not elected on partisan basis, they are very accountable to the people. And that is the purpose of what the people are asking. The people are saying that, look, we want the MMDCE to be held accountable to us. We don't want them to be appointed and be accountable to the president up in Accra while we are here. So that when they misbehave, we can find our own ways of removing them. That is what the people are looking for. Now, the question is, when you take 245 appointment positions from the president, you have hurt him. You have hurt not just the president, you have hurt the political parties. because this is the reward, basis for all political parties. When they win power, that is where you reward all the persons that have campaigned for you. So the politician is faced with a dilemma. It's a simple question. If we shed off this massive reward, vehicle, what happens to us?
Okay, so you are proceeding to the substantive matter. Yes, we know, for example, that at the start, the NPP, through its general secretary, had come to announce that the party was against it, that high-ranking members of the party were against election of MMDCs. Precisely. But of course, you know how the parties work. They'll use a party whip. So as far as in October, I can show you what he said. As in October, this is what John Boedu had said. I'm asking him a question. He's saying,
because
you are saying, John, yes, you are saying that.
I think he's clarified his position.
Okay, that's okay. You are saying that it is the politicians who want to delimit what they want to give the people. Precisely. The people want MMDCs to be elected, but it is not exactly that they want them to be elected on partisan basis.
Precisely.
Okay, thankfully, you were part of the Constitution Review Commission's work. What you are saying is contrary to the work that the Constitution Review Commission did. That reading the report of the Constitution Review Commission, there was an equal majority, equal number of people who wanted it partisan and those who wanted it non-partisan. And even though the commission advised that the non-partisan is the best, they ended with this recommendation. And they said that the commission recommends, the recommendation was that at sometime Parliament should amend the 243 to allow for partisan MMDC elections. So how do you now justify what you're saying?
Something you and we are lawyers. When there is a tie, assuming that there was even a 50-50 presentation, when there is a tie as to what to change, I think the position is that what it should remain. So it doesn't mean that the people are calling for that change. Now the question, if you read the report carefully,
this is what they said. 474. They said the commission recommends the amendment of Article 248 to empower Parliament at any time in the future to make provision for partisan elections at the district and sub-district levels.
Yes, but the commission recommended clearly that you cannot do this unless you make fundamental changes to the local government system. What are some of the changes they mentioned? They said, look, let's regulate even the political parties so that they do not use the way they select their leaders and their reps in the national election to influence local government. The point they are trying to make is that they do not want a situation where what is happening at the national level will be replicated at the local government level. So good, it's good to have partisan politics, but when you have a partisan political system which has no accountability to the people, then there is a problem. So if you read the Constitution Reviews Commission, they rejected it and gave about 5 points of reasons to say that we are not in support of this. We are not taking just the submission into account. We are doing international comparative analysis. They did a historical analysis of what has been happening and the results, and even the analysis of what the committee of experts did on the 1992 Constitution. The point is as simple as this. Why are we afraid? The people are speaking all over the place. You can hear them. And even some members of parliament, some politicians are saying that, look, let's stop this thing and reconsider it. But it also brings out one important thing. What level of consultation went into this decision? We are going to conduct a referendum. That referendum is going to cost a lot of money, taxpayers' money. It's going to cost a lot of tension, effort, resources. And the people are out there and they don't even know the issue that they are voting on. Because the president, for instance, is saying, go and vote, what, yes, so that you have MMDCs elected. Is that the issue? Obviously not.
One-off slip.
Obviously not.
He says it's a slip. He says it's a slip on the part of the president. It's only a one-off slip, so you can allow
Let's leave out the president. There are posters going around campaigning that vote yes. And when you vote yes, you have MMDCs elected. When the question is not about letting MMDC elected. So there is, like I said, there is a conflict between what the politicians want and what the people want. Okay. And there is this deliberate effort because all of this cannot be slips.
Okay.
I mean,
so you hold on briefly. I'll return to you. But you see, once again, I refer to the Constitution Review Commission's work to let you know that it's not exactly the point, that it is the politicians who have a certain desire and want to impose it on the people.
No, hold on. Let me tell you the composition. What happens when the commission is taking submissions? It is the politicians who mobilize people to even attend the commission hearings. I mean, if you are doing analysis, research work, your selection of people will go into the quality of the data. Right. So, and you know how these things work.
Okay. People
all right.
Across the country to meet people.
Yes. Now,
that's not fair.
Doc, can we begin from here? What the NDC has done, that's clearly does not work for their credibility, does it? Or it rather does. That in Parliament, they endorse this. And in fact, outside Parliament, they hold meetings under IDEC and they endorse it. And all of a sudden, they have found 101 reasons why people should go and vote no. Let's listen to one of the NDC's rep at one of these IDEC meetings and what he had to say on behalf of the General Secretary of the NDC and tell us whether there's a credibility deficit with the NDC.
You see, this is the confusion that the government is deliberately introducing. They and their supporters, they deliberately confuse the issue of electing DCs with making the district assembly system partisan. Article 55.3, which we are voting on, simply says that parties can sponsor candidates to district level elections. It doesn't say that parties can sponsor candidates, can sponsor DCs.
I represent the National Democratic Congress, most especially the General Secretary, Honorable Johnson Asedu Nketia. This is one of the topics, one of the few topics that both the NDC and the NPP seem to be in agreement. So I would not want to talk too much about the advantages of having a multi-party election at the local assemblies. However, our concern as the National Democratic Congress is that, yes, we are for a referendum to have a multi-party election. But if we are all interested in the outcome of the referendum and we are all asking our members to go for a yes, we should also be interested in the processes leading to the referendum. The Electoral Commission and its activities cannot be excluded from this process. Not too long ago, we had one referendum which decided the creation of new regions. And we believe as a party, and we still strongly hold the view that the processes were compromised, the elections was compromised. The process with regards to registration of members, exhibition of voter register, and the conduct of the election itself is very critical to this process. So we are urging all the stakeholders here that let us not only be interested in the outcome of the referendum, we should also be interested in ensuring that the processes leading to the outcome of the referendum are free and fair.
All right, so that's Edem Agbana, who is the deputy youth organizer. And on this occasion, he was very clear that he was speaking for and on behalf of the NDC's national organizer. Secretary. Does it create credibility problems? People are saying, how can you behave this way?
Well, I don't think so at all. I don't think it creates credibility crisis for the NDC. Adam, being the deputy youth organizer, did not just make that statement. He continued to make other statements. And I think the statement he emphasized the most in the short clip that played is that we should be interested in the processes. And I think that for me is more fundamental. Than
For our purposes of this discussion, the most important part is the unequivocal endorsement of the National Democratic Congress at the time, endorsement of
multi-party.
partisan,
Yes.
district assembly elections.
He made that statement and we heard him.
Right.
But he proceeded further to say that we should also be very interested in the processes. And I think there must be a fundamental reason why he was emphasizing the processes. And one of that could be that as we engage, we will learn. New knowledge will emerge. New insights will be obtained. And all those insights will lead us to relaxing our fixated positions and begin to reshape the direction of the policy. So I don't think that there is an issue of credibility here at all. Fundamentally, though, we need to ask ourselves, I mean, for me as a political scientist with a policy background, I ask myself, what problem are we trying to solve? Because the primary
We're trying to solve winner takes all.
The primary
The argument is that when you do it this way, minority parties can also win some power at the local level. So it will not be if MPP has one power, MPP has everything.
Okay, so from the debates, what I have gleaned from the debate is that we want to reduce the overbearing powers and influence of the president at the local level. That is one.
Number one.
Number two, we also want to use the parties to generate enthusiasm at the local level. And then number three, we want to bring accountability and answerability at the local level.
Right.
That is all good. The follow-up question, however, is the solution being put forward a solution that can address these problems adequately? Does electing MMDCs on partisan lines necessarily solve these problems? Or it
now let's be clear, it's not just about MMDCs.
And assembly members.
Yeah,
yes.
assembly members and unit committee members.
Very well.
Yeah.
Does it necessarily solve this problem? And I don't think so. And I'll give you reasons why. The NDC's position, as has been articulated by the national chairman recently, is not inconsistent with the position that the minority leader, for instance, articulated in Parliament. The minority leader in Parliament said the NDC supports the elective principle of MMDCs, and I think that is basically the same position. As of today, what the NDC is saying is that we are not against the people of Ghana electing assembly members as they always do, and we are not against the people of Ghana electing MMDCs. What we have a problem with is the attempt to make the election of assembly members and the MMDCs partisan. That is what the NDC's position is. The NDC is simply saying that we don't want you to bring the parties to the local level election for a number of reasons. One, I mean, several CSOs in this country have cried about the dangers inherent in winner takes all. The winner takes all politics in this country does not manufacture itself. It is a product of the competitive multi-party election system. Unfortunately for us, because of the requirement of 50% plus one at the presidential election level, Ghanaian electorates have basically been pushed into two camps. So invariably, the smaller parties continue to die. So you have a situation where now you have only two dominant parties. What it therefore means is that if you export this particular game down to the MMDCs, you are going to have a situation where in every district, people are basically going to take positions on party lines. And I think that in the majority of countries in the world where local government is practiced and is most effective and productive, many countries opted for a non-partisan for a number of reasons. People want to be able to walk into their local government settings and have problems solved without wearing the party tag. And I have listened to a number of assemblymen who say, look, everybody in this area knows that I'm an NDC person or I'm an MPP person. But when I am an assemblyman, they know that I'm not NDC or MPP assemblyman. I am an assemblyman. So they are happy to do what? Come around, discuss the problems with me, and we solve it. So we need to keep in mind that if we agree that political parties at the national level have inherently created a certain problem that excludes a certain section or a certain segment of the society from participation and distribution, redistribution of national resources, then there is a much bigger danger if we export that particular project downwards. And the dangers are many. One of the things that if we do this partisan thing at the district level, we will encounter is, based on our voting pattern in this country, NDC had always won the Volta region. The MPP had always won Ashanti region.
I hope you
If you begin to elect MMDCs and assembly members on partisan lines, what we are going to end up happening is that in the future, when NDC is in office, there is a likelihood that a large majority of DCEs in Ashanti region will be what? MPP members. And when NDC comes to power in 2020.
So that the solution groups like IDEC are pushing. So winner takes all is being resolved.
No. Winner takes all. What is their understanding of winner takes all, by the way? Winner takes all is being escalated and exacerbated.
How?
How? Because how do you have a region and consistently you have elections, and the outcome of election is that only one dominant political party gets to have everything. All other political parties in that region do not matter. And then you say that you have resolved winner takes all. The fact that you have NDC at the national level and you have MPP at Ashanti region does not mean that you have resolved winner takes all. That is crazy. You know why? The president sitting at the national level can deprive the DCE and that district of resources, largely because they did not vote for his party or vote for his DCEs. The DCEs over there in the other region, who do not belong to the president's party, can also sabotage the president. I mean, you can imagine the president of, let's say we have that system now. And
we are being assured that there will be laws and regulations to check all of these things. I think
that we must move beyond speculative assurances. Something that are a number of things. We need to ask ourselves, is this the only option available to us as a country? Is the option of electing MMDCs through the partisan vehicle the only one available to us? Why do we want to now pitch families against families, chiefs against chiefs, church members against church members, local members against local members on partisan lines, when we know that at the national level, this thing is of a much bigger problem?
They say this is the reality, so simply endorse it, bless it.
Well, whose reality is that?
The reality.
No, there is nothing like, there is nothing like,
no. As we speak, the parties are engaged in these elections anyway.
In the postmodern world, there is nothing like the reality. Whose reality is that? The very reason why we are discussing this is because there is nothing like the reality. There may be multiple realities, and it is through continuous conversation that we can come to a certain consensus on what we think exactly the problem is.
All right, so you catch your breath. I'll come back. Let's go to Kwekubako. And you made a statement that I have referred to, and I have asked myself whether or not you belong to a yes or no. I have asked you this morning, and you have been reluctant to say you are yes or no, and that as you wait, when you are done, we'll get to know whether you are yes or you are no or you are neither, and so on and so forth. So I was just going to the statement that you made, and then ask you whether by explaining that statement we could get a better and clearer picture of where exactly you stand. So you said, okay, just a second. All right. Right. This is delaying, but I could just ask you to go ahead. You didn't seem to have a clear position expressed. This is what you said. You said that you were wishing that the referendum would be deferred. I don't know whether, this is what you said, you wish that the referendum would be deferred. I don't know whether it's too late to abandon the project. My whole sense is that it's not going to come on. They won't give us the 2/3. What's your point? You are for yes, but because you think you can't get yes, it should be deferred, abandoned.
You'll be surprised that this is one issue that I have been consistently challenged on. A very personal view, and I'm being very honest with you. And if you permit me, I would want to go a little bit back. I wouldn't be protracted in terms of the delivery there. Prior to 2000...
I have to get back to Yao to do his substantive, and I've not actually allowed him.
No, you
to
shouldn't
do-
have started.
Yeah. You go ahead. Go
From
ahead.
there. You should have asked me to start from there.
You go ahead. Go ahead.
Because that kind of thing. But I'll tell
Yeah.
you something. From 1998 up to 2000, I was part of those who advocated for MMDCs to be elected by universal adult suffrage, as well as on partisan grounds. Indeed, most of the political parties, maybe with the exception of the NDC, captured some of those things in their manifestos. The NPP 1996 manifesto was there, 2000 it was there, 2008 it was there, even more explicit. Now I've noticed something quite interesting with the 2016 one. If I'm wrong, y'all can correct me. The 2016 NPP manifesto, I thought I saw only them pointing to universal adult suffrage as the basis for electing MMDCs.
All of them committed to election, but they never said it will be partisan.
Yes.
And they never said it will not be partisan.
Yes.
I think that
How else?
exactly.
Yes.
Like the church something.
But the point, the significant point I'm making is that the previous manifestos, they were sharp on it. They were categorical. They just didn't talk about elections, but said elections on partisan basis. It appears 2016 they omitted. Maybe it was inadvertent. I'm not too sure. But whatever it is.
Certainly it's not inadvertent.
Yes, but here we are now.
It was thought through.
It can be.
Yeah, but here we are now. We are discussing the two together. The universal adult suffrage, that is
Partisanship.
the
universal adult
2431,
suffrage.
as well as the 53.3, which is partisanship. So they are together. That's why I'm making the point I'm making. I have traveled a certain journey. Until recently, I was for no. And I was for no because I was looking at the Security and Intelligence Act in terms of our architecture. And I was worried that if we were to elect these DCs, MMDCs, and they were chairpersons of those subsidiary DISEC and things, it could create some problems. Until some member of parliament called my attention to the fact that there are consequential amendments which would capture the Security and Intelligence Act, and those paragraphs or portions will be subject to amendment.
Okay, so that for clarity, the MMDCs, if we get to make them partisan, will no longer be the heads of the security
That's the drift I was giving.
committees.
They may be members, but they may not be chairpersons.
Okay.
And I even told the person that, well, that's something I hadn't thought of, which I thought I should have adverted my mind to.
Okay,
But
because it
whatever
doesn't
is-
work to have, say, an NDC district DCE to be the chair, because they have to report to the president.
Yes, and then the Regional Security Council, District Security Council, then the National Security Council.
Okay.
So those arguments came in, and I realized that, well, I hadn't done a deeper thinking on the issue. So I decided that, well, if those amendments will be done, in any case, those people will still be members of the security committees. So if you are talking of total confidentiality, you may not have taken away the regs or threat entirely. Okay, but I was prepared to drift forward.
So senior police officers will take over.
Exactly,
these
man.
positions.
That's what I was told.
Okay.
That kind of structure.
And we are looking to guarantee that the senior police officers will not have party loyalties.
Well, but we know some of them have, but we can't do anything about that immediately, unless they show their character.
That defeats the argument.
No, wait. Unless they show their conduct,
Okay.
but in their conduct and actions, that they are being partisan. After all, the civil servants who tell you they don't vote or they don't have party affiliations.
Exactly.
And I'm not going for the illusion. I'm just staying realistic. And I'm saying that unless your conduct and actions betray that code of service, then nobody can touch you because they suspect you are party A or party B. You can't use suspicion as a basis to take action against anybody.
Right.
So I myself have been inconsistent relative to this challenging proposition. And
So you have come from a no to yes.
Yes.
Okay.
And now, because of some of the issues that you've raised here, the breach, in my candid opinion, of faith on the part of the NDC and other things happen. Look at even the National House of Chiefs and the things going on there. I know it may be too late to defer this whole project. And when I say the project, I mean the two sides put in one, both 2431 end at 53-3.
55. We don't
55.
We don't need to touch 55-3, really.
Well, that's your
What do you
opinion.
say?
And that's
Different realities is what you tell us.
You are entitled to that.
Yes.
What happened in Parliament showed that both sides of the divide had decided that this should be seen as an integrative proposition. And you just said that Aruna Edrusu said something different. Let me quote what he said in the Hansard for you. This is Aruna Edrusu. This is July 29th, 2019.
Right.
It starts from column 1519. It says, if you come to Article 55.3, it is not for nothing that the Constitution provides two walkways. If you are amending an entrenched provision, go to the people through a referendum. The referendum question has not been decided, so the question we would pose is, assuming you go to the referendum and it fails, what happens to this amendment that you are carrying out? Because sovereignty resides in the people. The people may decide otherwise, and you cannot determine it. So the support of those of us on this side of the house is conditional to the fact that the DCEs should be elected, but they should be elected on partisan lines. That's the minority leader.
Okay.
Then he goes on to talk about the fact that parties are already involved and says, Mr. Speaker, the pretense must end. All of us here know that clandestinely, political parties support district assembly elections in Ghana. It is provided in the Constitutional Review Report, and I can read portions of it, which I think you were alluding to.
Yeah.
So, Mr. Speaker, two principles amend the Constitution. Allow for popular election of DCEs, but do it on the principles of partisanship. We would support that. Without that, it may be difficult to support it.
Right.
Mahama Yarega said virtually the
Almost
same thing.
all of them. With the exception of Inus Afuseni.
But that was then.
No, ABA Fuseni.
That was then.
That was
Inus
just
Afuseni.
recent.
Inus
That was then.
They what has happened.
We are discussing what the party's current position
So wait,
is.
yeah. Yes, Koku.
And my brother.
So your point is,
I have enough.
your point is that
no, I'm coming.
if the party changes their view,
No,
and they whip their
they are
parliamentarians
entitled to change their view, but the review, if it is review, comes with a certain deficit: sincerity, honesty, deficit.
But everybody changes their mind all the time. I watched you on Good Morning Ghana the last time. You said
But
you were
I've
not,
just told you
you were
I've
not
changed my
comfortable
mind a couple
with the
of
reform.
times.
Yes. So then,
No,
so it's not about credibility.
I'm not.
Every human being and every institution, depending on what information is available to you at any given point,
I haven't
is
finished.
entitled to
No,
change his
Samson,
mind.
please.
Yeah,
I
go
know,
ahead.
I know.
Go ahead.
It's okay, but that's okay.
So quickly.
See,
yeah.
I'm talking here of a major political party.
That shouldn't make
That I
mistake.
said.
And I meant.
La ilaha
Go
illallah.
right ahead. Go right ahead.
No, but he's canvassing the other side of the argument to you, that some say this is rather being sincere and credible and going with the people. If we have discovered that the people somewhat
Absolutely.
overwhelmingly don't want this, we should rather do what the people want.
We are here. Sooner than later, we'll be tackling an issue, and I will checkmate them on this consistency
No
principle.
problem.
Okay.
But I want to be allowed to do my submission.
Right, quickly.
Go right ahead.
Yeah.
I said the insincerity, the dishonesty that has informed the NDC's review gets my vote. Same thing is happening even on the level of National House of Chiefs. We don't see what is going on there.
There's one chief, Osajifo Yaojebi, who says that the statement as issued was not endorsed. Should we take his word, or we should take the statement signed by the president and the vice?
The controversy itself is demeaning and undermines the integrity of that whole institution.
But in the meantime, what should we go with?
I don't know what to go with. It just tells me, no, let me tell you honestly, because I haven't done the checks to find out, because they have a secretariat, they have procedures they follow. If I want to do a determination, I would want to do a proper checks on those things and not sit here and say what
we
I
have
feel
had
like.
many times when in Parliament, at the committee level and things, they agree on things, and then some of them come here to talk to us. We show them what the document is and tell them that they must stick to the official.
The Hansard I read to you is it's a document, a very important document.
That's
this
not
is
in doubt.
House of Records.
That's not in doubt.
I have not heard the minority leader or any of them talking. Indeed, the party leadership that met, some of them were on your station and other stations, actually did not even know that their own parliamentary wing had committed them to this, showing that the party itself had not constructively engaged each other. That's the point I'm making. That's a big party. And we shouldn't just gloss over it. But the point I'm making, let me tell you something. The explanations, the reasons that come as to why we shouldn't allow party politics or multi-partyism at the local level, based on the PNDC structure that we got in 1988, 87, 88, it worries me. There's a certain phobia. They've turned party politics into a phobia. There's an attack on multipartyism and party politics. And that's what actually led to the PNDC adopting the structure. I'm sure you know about this book, the Blue Book. Read it, find out the reasons that were given. At that point in time, many of us who were part of the Democratic campaign opposed them. The same arguments were made by the Unigov proponents. Same arguments were made, interestingly, by even the one-party proponents. Okay? Except that they had a party in there.
Who were those against Unigov?
Unigov, I was one of them.
Yeah.
The Ghana Bar Association, the NUCS, National Union of Ghana Students, the Professional Bodies Association, and many other groups.
Okay.
The chiefs were for Unigov, mainly, because they said Unigov was going to bring the traditional governance system into being.
So it's not surprising that they will take a decision to support.
But I said, you see,
support,
what worries
to support
me,
a no vote.
What worries me is that we have a recycle of that anti-party, anti-multipartyism argument as the basis for retaining what had been put in there.
Okay.
And we are told that multipartyism has virtually destroyed the top. And I'm sure you know what I mean by the top.
Yeah.
The superstructure, the political superstructure.
Yeah.
See, I find it so difficult. If other convincing reasons could be brought on bear, perhaps they can get me to shift. But when this recycled anti-party, anti-multipartyism arguments is brought to bear, something we rejected. Otherwise, there's no need to have this multipartyism at the top. We might as well go back for Unigov, for a no-party system.
When the commission went through the process, these are some of the things they said. They said that the commission, however, observes that where local elections are held on partisan basis, nomination rules determined and deployed by national parties can serve as impediments to accountability. It also weakens local government systems. The commission observes that as a result of corruption in Ghana's body politic, partisan politics in local elections may lead to the erosion of popular support for local assembly. The commission observes with concern that in jurisdictions where political parties play a role in the elections at the local level, without clear rules that stipulate the inclusion of certain disadvantaged or minority segments of society, the system may easily engender dominance by majority groups, more powerful social groups, and persons who have enough money to spread around for the purposes of attracting votes. There's a lot more they had to say as he had sought to lead us through first.
And what did the government white paper say?
The government white paper said, look, let's jettison the MMDCs coming on this way. Let's rather have the president nominate 5 and present them to the people to vote on them.
But I'm saying, are you telling me that the monetization, the threat of monetization, or the threat of corruption of the political superstructure is not already in the lower structure? Is that what you are telling me?
Okay, so hold on briefly now.
It's an illusion.
Let's go to your substantive point now, and let me just use one observation by an assembly member, according to Suleiman Brahima, to let you answer, look at it this way. He says, this is what the gentleman who is an MC and going to contest again told him. He said, Massa, forget about this party talk. Look, we all know which party who belongs to, but because the contest is not openly NDC MPP, there is calm. Look, if it was MPP NDC openly, I can't tell you how many local fighting will be there. Campaign teams will clash all the time, and the campaign will be menya. Massa, they should leave us alone. Me, I am MPP man, but after elections, everyone calls me assemblyman, not MPP assemblyman. When NDC people in the village have problems, they come to me as assemblyman. No one thinks of MPP and NDC when we have problems to solve in our community. That the assemblyman has to lead. when I organize communal labor, both NDC and MPP people come. If I am an MPP assemblyman, NDC people will say that they don't come to help my party to be popular in here and so on and so forth. Why do you support? Why do you support yes?
Is that assumption? Nobody knows his party.
He says they know.
Everybody knows. So what's the difference?
They know.
We should distinguish.
Let y'all speak. Let y'all speak.
Politicians or political parties?
Member of Parliament.
Is the problem politicians or political parties? Are the people going for elections at district level politicians? Are the executive who lead this party politicians? Are we more comfortable with the executive leading the country as politicians than political parties partnering them? Has that succeeded? You see, this thing, there's been consultation for several years, even formally from 2011, CRC, and then a roadmap from 2017 to now, reading through to 2021. The roadmap is very clear. So there's been consultation of all facets. In Parliament, it was the NDC leadership who brought in 55-3, committed to it. So again, the question of the vote phase and the overturning. Now,
let's move to why you will vote yes.
I'll vote yes.
If you could actually vote no.
I'll vote yes because one, I think the worst parts of our history have been when there were no political parties.
Really?
Yes. Look at the Champon years. They were the executive. They were politicians. They controlled legislative, judicial, everything, and ended up from what they took over to the revolution. On the way we had Kalabule. The revolutionary years.
What an example to give.
Oh yeah, the revolutionary years.
We are not in those days.
Please, the revolutionary years, there were no parties. We ended up with an economy which became excessively liberalized. Growth at the end was nothing to write home about. In fact, we exited with HIPIC. Political parties came in, right? Out of the 62 years, 40 of them have been involved with political parties. But the political parties are now reacting to the constitutional frame that we're left with. But the constitutional frame is that whilst we are sharing power, it excludes every party entirely once one party wins. What does that mean? It means that every party is now beginning to employ ways and means of staying in there permanently, because if you go out, you are out. And those who are out are struggling to come back in at all costs. Because once you're out, you're out. What happens? It means that when you come in, you consolidate your space. You know that you have a maximum of probably 8 years. You try to entrench yourself. So you find a situation where we are not accumulating serious capital. You refuse to continue what others did. You are bending the state to your needs until you're able to control the state effectively. Otherwise, you are going to lose out to the other group. When they come in, they'll get rid of everything. Now, what we are saying is that if you vote yes, you create ownership. Winner takes all is the one which is the most important.
Sorry, you said when who comes in, they get rid of everything.
When a political party comes in, the tendency, one, in the transition, first of all, is to disregard all that has gone on before. If you are not, what do you call it? You virtually criminalize everything that has happened with your opponent.
That's a lot of waste, right?
That is waste. It's sunk capital. You abandon the projects. You look to change their technical people who have been trained and put in place.
And why do you do that?
Because it's a zero-sum game. Because you are now in charge and you want to get rid of everything that the other group did, because otherwise you yourself are not safe.
When you elect the local level.
Yes.
Sorry, please, can I do the questioning? When you take this to the local level, you will improve and resolve the issue?
The local level, taking it there is what will break the higher level.
It will?
It will. It will, because now the parties will be forced to engage. There will be competitive tolerance. The parties will own the processes. If there is established a direction for the government through the parties at local level, all sides will be committed to it. There will be buy-in. We will finish the projects, because those projects would have been mutually
at the more matured, for lack of a better expression, at the more matured level, at the national level, in Parliament. Is that what goes on? Is that what the electorate see? What you're talking about? Or you are now thinking about doing those?
We work together in Parliament. But the majority, naturally, has the overwhelming edge. What happens is that you are part of a government. So you ensure that whatever the government brings in passes.
MPs who have disagreed with their party, either the party in government or party in opposition, have virtually been thrown out of parliament.
Because there is no incentive to agree or disagree, except that if you disagree, you are rendering our common solidarity at risk. Okay. Because if you disagree and we go out, we are out. We are not in. So there is no incentive to disagree. The incentive is to stay in charge. You understand what I'm saying?
Do you realize you are enforcing the no agreement?
Yes, I mean, I think that's why I've been quiet.
Sorry.
I'm saying that if we elect at local level, the parties will all come together in the frame and think together.
Why are we not doing that at the national level?
Because you are taking all the power. You don't have no incentive to talk to anybody.
Okay. So just a minute.
Let me learn.
See, the argument you are making, you're going to continue with it. Let's listen to Ofosu Ampofo and then use your arguments to disagree with him, and let's see. Ofosu Ampofo is the national chairman of the NDC, and they held a press conference to say that henceforth, this is the party's position. They are members of parliament, everybody should stay in line. Let's listen to him and find out from Boabian Samoa why his arguments are not tenable.
At the meeting held last Thursday, the NEC of the NDC affirmed our long-held position that MMDCs should be elected. We, however, took the view that the local governance system should remain non-partisan and that individuals contest the elections, the district assembly election and unit committee elections on their own merits. We therefore decided to campaign for no vote at the referendum and to urge all Ghanaians to vote no at the referendum. It is our well-considered view, and indeed that of well-meaning Ghanaians, that the needless NDC-MPP polarization at the national level should not be extended into the district assemblies and unit committees, which is what will happen if we vote to make the local government system partisan. The consequence of exporting this polarization to the district assemblies is that very soon in our villages, there will be NDC Communal Labour Day and MPP Communal Labour Day. There will also be NDC market and MPP market, and so on and so forth. We of the NDC believe that all our towns and villages should have one communal labor day and one market day. And we can only achieve this by voting no in order to keep the cohesion of our towns and villages as it has been since the introduction of 1992 Constitution intact.
Okay. What he is saying assumes that there will be no engagement. The engagement that is going on now, even at national level, is not inclusive. It is exclusive. And it is the exclusivity which is creating the situation of get in at all costs. It is driving the vigilantism, get in at all costs. It is driving the businesses we collapse, get in at all costs, build your own businesses. That exclusivity at national level is the problem. The winner takes all. It's a zero-sum game. He is assuming that when we vote, the zero-sum game will percolate downwards. That is not the case, because others will come in. I am calling it what I say is a competitive tolerance situation. You have to engage. And when you engage the lower parties and you decide on one thing, you will be committed to that thing. You will follow through on that thing. That thing will have a national interest. There will be buy-in across parties. And there will be better ownership of what we have as a nation. If we are engaging at the lower level on cross-party basis, it will percolate upstairs. And it will impact what we do upstairs. Because you will need to get alignment at the top before you descend your policy to the lower level. It will strengthen the parliamentary parties, because they will have a basis for engaging and arguing that I want this for my people because my people want it. My assembly is NDC. They are strongly serious about this social policy. Let's engage properly about it and see a win-win. In fact, it's a win-win situation. So you are dealing with a situation where you are breaking winner takes all from the bottom up.
Ofosu Ampofo says that you will be expending a lot of money because you will have how many MMDCs to elect, primaries to run first, and you have how many primaries for the assembly members and then the unit committee members. That is a huge amount of cost. And then it will come with, after the primaries, the campaign and all of that. And that will influence the corruption even further. What do you say about that?
The difficulties of Oswampofu is extrapolating are matters that are residual and consequential to this amendment.
They are important.
We can determine, yes, they are important.
You make laws against them.
We will determine how it goes. We've been discussing party funding.
The law presently is a prohibition.
Years.
It's not obeyed. What is the guarantee that it will be obeyed?
Why is it not obeyed? Because sometimes there's a reverse interest in it not being obeyed. You are a lawyer. He said you are a lawyer. You are a lawyer. You know that what is effectively that of the people. The voice of the people is the voice of God. It will rise above the law. And the utility and organization parties bring to electoral processes is what the current system is exploiting behind the scenes. Because parties bring organization. Parties bring logistics. Parties bring material support. Parties bring financial support. Above all, parties bring coherence to policy positions. You are saying that we should elect MMBCs on their own, elect assemblymen on their own, elect unit committee members on their own. Everybody should come with this program. How do they determine the way forward? There's best practice elsewhere that has it as separate. But we must operate also within our situation where we adapt best practice to suit ourselves and realize that a large majority of our people are not really policy engaged because of issues to do with literacy levels and other matters. So essentially...
Presently, the process is free. Are you thinking about that also?
Which
once
process?
you make it partisan, it will be free. The EC organizes platforms for them. They just go and speak.
How effective are those platforms? How much... Earlier on, I wanted to ask how effective has executive governance been at local level? How effective are those?
All right. Let me
land. Sams, let me land. What we need to accept is that inclusiveness is what this will bring.
It
will include every.
Why can't you see? Why can't you see good reason in the questions of doing away with the winner takes all and its dangers by doing an elective, partisan elective MMDC? Why can't you see that?
The entire argument for yes is based on some misclassification. So far, they've been comparing, a political system like Unigov with a political system. What we are having here is not a political. We already have political parties. The only question here is whether local government election should be done with politics that we already have. So the comparison itself is flawed. Now, it is not wrong. It is not wrong to belong to a political party. Neither is it wrong to be apolitical. What is wrong is the kind of politics we are playing. What is wrong is where people are losing jobs based on political lines, where businesses are collapsing based on political lines, where we are sharing national resources based on political. That is what is wrong. And that cannot be said to be an inherent character of politics. So it is the kind of politics we are playing that we don't want to go down there. And that is what the CRC said.
Rules will be made.
But that is what the CRC
said. That look, consequential laws will be made to make sure that what you are complaining about will be taken care of.
You probably realize that what you are saying, I was going to say it. That is why the CRC said that, look, unless we correct our kind of politics, there shouldn't be a program for what? Bringing those politics down to the local government level. Look, we are here in this country, where we see that nothing happens without politics in this town. The question is, do you want that down there? Obviously not. No, you see, we are making a mistake. When you make it look like
it's already there, so this is the way to stop it.
It is not. You see, the question is not whether people are political down there or not. That is not the issue. Everybody is entitled to. Everybody is entitled to be political. So the fact that I'm an assemblyman and I'm NDC or NPP and assemblyman doesn't mean that the system is political. We know what we mean when we say things are political. It doesn't mean that, of course, we can have a chief justice who is a card-bearing member of, and it's not unlawful, it's not wrong. We can have an EC who is a card-bearing member of a political party. That is not wrong. So the issue down there is not that people should not be political. The question is, you are setting up a system which is based on party lines. That is the issue. So I can be an NPP person, but when I'm a DCE, I should be able to conduct the business, and the systems at the lower level should be able to sustain an apolitical administration.
You are saying
and
once I
of political
contest on the ticket of the party, I can't be that kind of person.
You cannot be. You know why? Because you are within the party system. And you will be no. I mean, let's face it. Why? You know why don't they have? No. He just said that. And then
sorry.
There are different levels.
Gentlemen, can you allow him to also make his point?
I think it's overseas.
Can you allow him to also make his point? You have your
mischief.
turn.
Some of these mischief.
Yeah, go ahead.
The point is that you just said that in Parliament MPs cannot even vote against the whip when they are. That is so it is not because the person doesn't have conscience. It is because the system, the political party, binds you to a certain direction. But when you bring those things, so even though we have some brilliant people in Parliament who think otherwise from the party line, but they cannot do it because the system is what holding you tight. That is exactly what we don't want down there. So when you are down there, you can be NDC, NPP, but no system is binding you to a particular direction. Look, there are so many people in this country who would like to walk into local government and serve as assembly persons, who would like to be DCs and contest on their own merit and bring in quality leadership. But you are forcing them now to join a political party before they do it. Why have they not been in politics all this while?
Why are they not there now?
But are they being given
Have they been given that? You are pointing the DC. You are pointing the DC. You are pointing the DC. How can they come?
Guys,
If the DC is being appointed, so how can they?
about it.
Yeah.
I'm sorry.
You are pointing the DC, so how can the person come in? So there are people who have all it takes, the willingness, the zeal, the capacity and everything to change some small things within our local government system. But they cannot go because the president is not appointing them. The president won't appoint such a person. He's appointing a party man. You do a research across the country. Who are those people we appoint as DCs? They are always party members, people who have contested MPs on party tickets and have lost.
If an MPP party DC does not do the things that will help the community, the next time he'll be voted out, right? But he does what his party says do, and that doesn't help the community. He'll be voted out. You are also being told, that there's opportunity for independent candidates. Yeah. Nobody stops them to go and contest.
Oh no, you see, there's a difference between running as independent candidates among the political parties and also running as independent candidates when there are no political parties. We cannot compare. These are two different systems. So we shouldn't say that because MPPs are, you can run as independent candidates. What we want is that we don't want political parties there. We want people. You see, the advantages of even running this system is that the political parties, you claim that the people are already your members. Fine. If they do well, you can even bring them as MPs, and so it even prepares people for higher positions in the national central government.
That is why you must recognize and build their capacity. I'm sorry.
You know, so if you don't even allow people to, so by way of conclusion, all I'm saying is that we need to do a lot of things in our politics. Not political parties, but the kind of politics we play. We need to correct them. And once those things are corrected, I don't think anyone will sit anywhere and say that don't bring those things. If they are good at the national level, then we can bring them at the local level. But for now, let the sanity prevail. Let quality prevail. Let people who are of metal, people who are of merit, people who are capable of changing the things that we have destroyed over the years, let them take hold of small communities. Let them run those communities. Let them build themselves up for even the national and central government position. And at the end of the day, I'm sure, Honorable, you will be laughing and be clapping for these years.
Okay. So now let's hear you two on your very substantive question. And once again, one of the people Suleiman spoke to said he is MPP, but he mingles with all the people in the assembly. He's happy. They are okay with it. His fear is that once you make it partisan, they will come and conduct primaries. He is not educated. He will lose. He will not win the primaries because he feels they will put education criteria among other things, and he will lose out. What is wrong with? Isn't that wrong in itself? Because you are seeking to get certain competent people, and the party primaries will choose the competent ones to contest.
I think the larger point that individual was making is that when you introduce the parties at the local level, particularly at the level of assemblymen, unit committee members, and of course the DCE level, you end up having local interests being subordinated to the larger national party interests in terms of shipping people to line. We all know what happens in this country. I mean, we know how when the parties run their primaries, some individuals from within the national could go and fudge things at the local level and then the local preference can be put aside, and then we all know this is. We should not really pretend that they don't exist. These are our experiences. Our experiences must guide our way forward. And so let's be realistic about that. But the more important thing is that both Kweku Baako and Honorable Yabawe Samoa agreed that at the top level, the parties and the way partisan politics is played is a problem there. What they are saying is that there is a cancer in our body politic. Now, from a medical point of view, when there is a cancer in a person's body, do you cure it and prevent it from spreading, or do you spread it? What they are saying is that there is a cancer, we notice it, but let's spread it to the entire system, then the system will be okay. I think that kind of thinking is problematic. And then there is this few, I mean, when Kweku started earlier, we talked about NDC's credibility crisis. I think that taking the position and learning later to change it should not be seen as credibility crisis. It should be seen as willingness to admit, improve, and put up an alternative. Willingness to be open.
And in fact, that's what politics is about.
Please don't
Absolutely.
intervene. Yeah.
Now, if you recall, prior to 2016 election, the MPP agreed that elections should be held in November. At all the committee meetings, they agreed. The Hansards are there. I mean, Kweku has a lot of documents here. You could refer to them. They agreed. But when they came to the plenary, they refused. Nobody talked about credibility crisis for them. Even Kweku himself said he was for yes. Yeah. And then now he's changing his vote to, or he was for no.
No, yes, no, now yes.
I mean, and that is not, I don't see that as credibility crisis.
Does that mean that you have abandoned your argument that this should be deferred and it should be abandoned? Because
he concluded on that.
No, it has not been yes and still ask for
I
deferment.
think they should defer this project.
Yeah. They should defer the project.
That's how he concluded.
That's my view.
That's how he concluded.
But I'm sure nobody will agree to that. The expenditure and all those things they've done. But the truth of the matter, if you ask me, both sides of the coin.
Look, but the voting is an opportunity for options. So let the people vote rather than say.
It's a personal view.
Okay, personal view is that it should be deferred.
Okay.
Let him finish up. We're almost out of time now.
Now let's agree that parties are not the only thing there is to society. The larger project we have is nation building, and I think we need to keep that in mind. This country called Ghana did not emerge endogenously. It was endogenously created. And therefore what it meant was that sometime in our national life, we were put together by some people. We need to build the nation and allow us to be able to rise above the primordial and ethnic feelings. And that necessarily means that the things that divide us, the things that make us acrimonious, the things that necessarily incite ethnic tension must be reduced. And one of those things is needless competition. Needless competition. In the repertoire of institutions available for building democracy, competition is not the only thing. You have consensus building, you have cooperation, you have competition, and you have others. Why do we think that making this process partisan competition is the only way out? At the local level, there are retired teachers, retired nurses, retired doctors, retired engineers. All of who have been in the public service or in private service all their life and have never been tagged partisan-wise. Please give me 2 minutes.
No, I'm sorry.
They want to offer something to their local government system. They don't want to do that on partisan lines. They want to do that as individual Ghanaians who have achieved something and want to offer something.
Thank you, Dr. Pesawai. We have run out of time. I don't know, Kweku. We actually have run out of time.
Okay. No,
thank you very much. Thank you very much, all of you. So there is a no, there is a yes, there is a yes but defer, there is a no.
Yes but defer to no later.
Okay, thank you very much, gentlemen. We'll take a break here. When we return, yes,
it will come back.
When we return, of course, when we return, I'll share with you your views on this particular subject, and then we'll proceed to discuss the budget. We'll be right back. Thank you. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile. It's your most authoritative news analysis platform. And here on Newsfile, we put Ghana first. And for the budget discussion, our guest will be Dr. Ebo Texin, who is Senior Lecturer, Department of Economics, University of Ghana. Of course, Yabuabe Asamoah is still here with us. Dr. Said Boakye is Senior Research Fellow, Institute for Fiscal Studies. And Isaac Adongo is MP and member, Finance Committee of Parliament. We wait for Dr. Ebo Texin. Good morning. Thank you for joining us, gentlemen.
Good morning.
Dr. Said and... okay. Something came to my mind. I will say that. Please, Isaac, I don't know. All right.
Wale Adam Smith.
No.
Not Wale Adam Smith, something
Adam
else.
Smith is somewhere else.
Okay. All right, so let me share with you some of the views that you have to share, and I hope that my good friend Everon Hughes is watching and listening. Everon Hughes had wanted to be the one to host the show today, particularly this part, because he is of the view that I will campaign for no. All right, I hope that you are not disappointed though. Now, Akwesi Obeng in Juso Besiasi says that most countries practicing democracy have politicized their local elections. Those who are advocating for no voting because it will divide us don't know what they are saying, because with the election of MPs on party lines, we have been divided already. Our polling stations within our electoral areas are having MPP and NDC executives, so let's vote yes to politicize our local elections. Benjamin Osei Jamra in Edinburgh says that why are we behaving as the proverbial ostrich and thinking that partisanship is not already happening in our local governance system? A vote for yes is an admission of the reality on the grounds and cannot amount to illegality, and some no campaigners are alluding to. Anyway, I am enjoying the dimensions the debate has taken. Let's all agree to disagree with the view to consolidating our democracy. Eja Adam says, Samson, there is a groundswell of anti-MMDC's elections sentiment sweeping across the rank and file of the party. The people don't fancy the idea of ceding the president's responsibility to the masses in this regard. Many hold the view that we are not there yet. Their reasons may not sound cogent, so to some, but to others, they have valid reasons. The NDC say they are voting no. Many MPP folks say they are voting no. Some known voices in the media are canvassing for no. Yes will likely be an orphan. If yes fails to overcome the onslaught, it would have dire consequences for the party and government. Would it not be, that's too long, would it not be ideal to take a step back, review this whole election of MMDC's idea, and put this on the ice until enough education has gone on for the masses to really appreciate the import of this idea? No, I can read further for just one person. Please, can we proceed to the next person so I can read? Okay, thank you very much for your message. Okay, so Martin Pebu says that I am also in favor of deferring the referendum. So Uncle Kweku Bako is in good company, except that I am voting no, and I'm advocating that everywhere. This one, my simple question is, can anybody tell us how we should elect our MMDCs through popular participation without the involvement of the political parties? This is Andy from the NALAG. It's a NALAG administrator. Okay, NALAG is the local government, National Association of Local Government Authorities. Okay, I got that right. Thank you. Manche Bruce says Samson, illusion is what? Anodyne, an anodyne, bred by the gap between wish and reality. The district assembly elections have always been illegally political. Political parties have always been involved in the selection of candidates. Let's carefully subject this issue to strict rigor of pragmatism and reality, and you would realize that we are deceiving ourselves as a people. Kenanku says, okay, says, you are like a Rosa boy, even within parties. When during primaries you didn't support the eventual winner, he cuts you off, even when you are very competent. I am a typical example. Thus, winner takes all is present within party primaries. Dafia Makwa Roxon says the involvement of multi-party participation in the elections at the local level will also mean that manifestos would have to be prepared by the political parties for the thousands of electoral areas we have in Ghana, and Parliament does intend any absurdity. Kofi Ofosu says that if the NDC says politics at the national level is a needless activity that must not be replicated at the local government level, why is their party still participating in a so-called needless activity? Confused lots. Okay, I guess I can end it here and then we can continue now to look at the question of the budgets. And in respect of the budgets, we're asking very simple questions. You have had 12.02 billion Ghana cedis put in your pockets. That's what Ken Ofori-Atta, the finance minister, has been telling us. Do you believe that? Is it something that you can work with? Isaac is here. He has very different views on a number of the sectors. He speaks about declining growth in agriculture, manufacturing sectors, among others, and challenges the finance minister to prove that he is correct in some of his figures. In fact, he has an allegation of actually manufacture of doctoring of some of the figures to do what we have seen. Let's listen to the finance minister briefly.
Lending rates are still high. Improvements in macroeconomic environments alone will not bring interest rates down. There are many other structural fractures in our financial system that are causing high interest rates. In addition to sustaining macro stability, government is actively working to remove these structural bottlenecks to support lower interest rates. Mr. Speaker, it was clear after taking office that we had inherited a financial system tottering on the edge of collapse, which was known to the previous government, but was negligently left unaddressed. The new leadership of the Bank of Ghana therefore moved decisively to restore soundness and stability to the financial system. For banks, savings and loans, and microfinance companies, 4.6 million depositors, Mr. Speaker, were at risk of losing their entire savings. The Bank of Ghana undertook a number of reforms, including increases in minimum capital requirement, revocation of the licenses of insolvent banks, resulting in the consolidation of banks from 34 to 23 by the end of December 2018. Consequently, we now, Mr. Speaker, have a banking sector that is well capitalized, liquid, and well positioned to improve the flow of funds in the economy and to drive private sector-led growth and development. This unexpected fiscal cost of the cleanup has thus far cost the taxpayer over 13 billion Ghana cedis in order to save the deposits of banks, savings and loans and microfinance companies. It has also led to an unplanned and one-time increase in Ghana's debt stock. 2020 is an election year. I would like to take this opportunity to inform this August House on behalf of the President that all the needed resources required shall be marshaled for the Electoral Commission to ensure that we have credible, free, and fair elections. Ghana remains one of the most stable and peaceful countries in the world, and we intend to maintain it. In spite of the year being an election year, Mr. Speaker, let me repeat that President Akufo-Addo and his government would ensure that the perennial excessive spending during such periods will not happen in 2020. We shall work within the 2020 appropriated resource envelope and adhere to the Fiscal Responsibility Act to maintain fiscal discipline. We will do so not because we are complacent of our chances, no, we will do so because the nation needs it, and we are not prepared to throw away all the sacrifices and gains the people and their government have made in the last 3 years. We shall consolidate our macroeconomic gains and offer businesses and households the predictability and stability that they need to manage their lives. Mr. Speaker, Ghana has developed an integrated institutional framework for the implementation of SDGs from the national to the sub. Government, in line with the decision taken in July mid-year, has formally instructed sector ministry, department, and agencies as follows: to suspend all ongoing negotiations on PPAs and GSAs, LNG gas and purchase agreements, or any other long-term take-or-pay contracts for power or gas until further notice. The government has placed a complete moratorium on the signing of new PPAs, GSAs, and put-call option agreements, and hereby instructs ECG, GMPC, GNGC, and VRA to abstain from entering into any new PPAs, GSAs, LNG SPAs, long-term take-or-pay contracts, and POs until discussions with Ministry of Energy and Ministry of Finance. That all future PPAs and GSAs, LNG SPAs, and long-term take-or-pay contracts shall be subject to competitive and transparent procurement procedures, and government will henceforth not entertain or accept any unsolicited proposal. On July 30, 2019, government suspended the Power Distribution Service, PDS concession, following government's detection of fundamental and material breaches of PDS's obligation in the provision of payment securities for the transaction and related matters. After further investigation and extensive consultation with relevant stakeholders, government on October 19, 2019, announced its decision to terminate the PDS concession. Regardless, Ghana is fully committed to private sector participation in ECG and is focused on moving forward with urgency to find a suitable replacement for the PDS arrangements. In line of government policy, the personal income tax band will be adjusted and the necessary parliamentary approval sought to ensure that a 12% minimum wage increase for 2020 is tax exempt. Personal reliefs such as marriage relief, child education relief, and old age relief, which were last adjusted in 2015, will also be reviewed upwards to ensure the relief consistent with government's commitment to support families. So this will be enhanced relief for families, children, and old age. Mr. Speaker, as you can see, we have not imposed any new taxes.
So that's the finance minister in Parliament. So I'm sure we can commence on this note. And he started from paragraph 6 of his presentation to say that the government, took over office and its determination was to fix what is broken, and that is what the government is determined to do. So let's check if they have been at the job of fixing what is broken: manufacturing area, agriculture, the finance sector, including all the things he had to say. In paragraph 16, I recall him saying that we have had a miraculous turnover of the economy, fastest growing economy. Ghana is one of the fastest growing economies, 2018, 2019, and this is non-oil. Non-oil GDP has increased from 4.6% in 2016 to 6.5 or is it 3% in 2018, and is projected to 6.0% in 2019 and 6.7% in 2020. How can we break down some of these things? 12.2 billion has gone to people's pockets, and that is less than what has been used to fix the financial sector cleanup. That's 13 billion. So let's begin fact-checking with Isaac Adungo.
Well, did you say 12-point-something billion has gone to people's pockets?
Yes, that's what he said. That's and this is what they have done into people's pockets, and that has been done since 2017 through major initiatives. You know, yeah, all the major initiatives. You know, at every point
is it 2 billion or 12.2 billion? I just want to be sure.
I thought it said 12.2 billion. Yeah.
12.2 billion?
Yeah, I think so.
Okay.
Free SHS is an initiative, all the initiative, NAPCO, everything else.
Okay.
So we are checking. Have they fixed what is broken? He says that's what they have been doing, and they continue to do so in 2020, including resolving Dumsor.
Well, we all know that Dumsor is a settled matter. I mean, it was resolved in 2016, so it's not about what they say now. Everybody knows that.
Yeah, I'll suggest that is in dispute.
Well, that
Dumsor was
cannot
resolved
be
by
in
the
dispute.
NPP.
Baumia himself had said
Really?
that in 2016, Baumia had said that we should not be giving credit for fixing Dumsor. He said it in 2016. If it wasn't fixed, he wouldn't have said that. He cannot now be changing. So
they're still struggling to fix
anyway, yeah, I don't know how, is that the way we are going to go? Or,
No, it's your time.
Okay,
But there are certain things you should be able to agree on.
Okay.
Yeah, you are saying Dumsor was not fixed. You fixed Dumsor.
Adam Smith go on first.
I mean,
no, but the facts would be
Smith.
contrary to that claim that the NPP government came to fix Dumsor.
What are the facts? The facts are that it's not just a question of the lights being on. It's a question of rationalizing the entire energy sector. The fact that we are now dealing with take or pays on which we are spending in excess of 600 million a year. The fact that we have now achieved free flow of funds within the sector. The fact that now it is working and working effectively.
But Dumsor was resolved before the NPP took over.
Not necessarily. How many ministers had to resign? Donko had to resign.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Yes. Have they been fixing what is broken?
Well, first, I think I have to start from this 12 point something billion. Yeah. So if that's the case, then you just pick the budget of any government, and you say that all social spending goes to people's pockets. And for that reason, you compare social spending to social spending. And what is social spending? Healthcare is social spending. And so when a government builds a lot of infrastructure for the healthcare delivery of the country, you build a lot of cheap compounds, and you are able to ensure that you scale up the delivery of healthcare. That is social spending. So how much was that went into people's pocket? We built several schools in order to give people access to education and to make sure that children were able to go to school. We introduced what we call progressively free SHS. That is social spending. How much did that cost? You look at the direct, what we call the direct social protection programs that were instituted, such as providing free school uniforms, providing free sandals for kids, making sure that children were not paying for textbooks and all of that. So when you put all of that, that is social spending. So are they now indicating the debate as to which government provided more allocation to social spending than the other?
We know the free SHS situation and how directly parents are benefiting.
Yeah, and that is what I'm saying. So who is paying for free SHS? It is the same parents who are paying for the free SHS. Okay, is government getting money from the moon to pay for free SHS and to fund those social interventions? So you take money from my pocket through taxes to fund programs, and you say you put money back in my pocket. Okay, then if that's the case, how much in taxes have you collected in total in 3 years? Because you took that from the pocket of Ghanaians. And you are talking in excess of 200 billion Ghana cedis taken directly from the pockets of Ghanaians in order to fund government. In fact, to fund 110 ministers, 135 ministers. And in return, you say you've given them 12 billion. So who is taking whose advantage now? That you took monies from the people's pocket of almost 200 billion. You are saying you put 12 billion back in their pocket. If you subtract that, who is suffering now? And so that's why when you go asking the average Ghanaian, they put their hands in their pocket. They rather see a default. There's nothing there. Because they have funded those projects from their own taxes. It is not as if a government came with money and has gone to provide freebies to people. No. So this concept of putting money into people's pocket is an insult to the average Ghanaian who every day is toiling to fund government machinery, who every day is struggling and paying taxes to fund corruption, who every day is struggling and contributing taxes after they've worked so hard and to get home, and the next day they can't find a job because they have been asked to go home from the collapse of banking sector. And so for any government that is sensitive to the plight of Ghanaians, you never will go on the path of saying that you are putting the same people's money back in.
So let's look at the budget.
So that is the first
and
one.
I'm saying, are they fixing what is broke, or they are not?
Let's understand.
We know.
Let's understand.
We know that he's preaching from taxation to production, and we are aware of 50% reduction on import duties from April. That's been going on.
So now, in 2017, the NPP assumes power. They didn't have a budget. They were spending on vote of account that was passed in 2016 for 3 months. They managed to put a budget together that is approved towards the last day of March 2017. The revenue measures and the programs, particularly the revenue measures that they put there in order to generate the resources, began to be implemented around August, September in 2017. In fact, the whole of 2017, they claimed that they were putting the legal framework together to be able to fund some of their programs, because their programs had to be delivered through the development authorities. So basically 2018 was a wasted year. Okay. And yet, it was in 2017, when they basically did nothing. In fact, they didn't even have a program until after the year when they now had these laws being passed. They didn't even have tax policies that were working until somewhere around September or October, August, September. The economy, that's why he calls it miraculous, because then the economy grows by 8.1%, even when you were sleeping. Okay, so one would expect that now that you are in full gear and your feet is on the ground, what do we expect to see? Leaps and bounds, right? The following year, you are now saying that that 8.1 that you slept and got has now come to around 6.3%. And you say you fix what? Do you know that in economic management, policies and programs have pass-through effects? So that even in 2017, the programs and actions of 2016 were impacting the economy. Okay, and that is why you saw that massive growth in 2017. So you then realize that even in 2017, when you did nothing, okay, the manufacturing sector grew from 7.9% in 2016 to 9.5% when you were sleeping. Now by 2018, when you are now in full gear and you are talking about industrialization, one district, one factory, what do we see? We see a 4% growth from 9.5% when you were sleeping and then doing nothing. It now comes to 4.1 or thereabout. Agriculture. In 2017, when you had done nothing, suddenly registers 4.7% growth. And when you are now implementing your program, it comes to 4%, and now we are looking at 2.6%. So quite clearly, the glory of 2017 is beginning to show their true levels in 2018 and 2019, when they now put the 110 ministers together and began to run their programs. And you know why? The facts are simple. 2017, you invested basically nothing. Development authorities were not set up. By 2018, you spent only 35 million Ghana cedis out of an amount, just multiply $270 million by 5. You were looking at about 1.3 billion that would have gone into all the flagship programs under the special development initiatives. We ended the year with you spending 35 million Ghana cedis.
Your claim in the agriculture sector, I don't know where that figure is from the finance minister's figures that he gives. The planting for food and jobs all have taken us very far to a very, enviable position. So he says in paragraph 32, he talks about 2.9 GDP, agri GDP growth. I don't know what the difference is. Agri GDP growth, 2.9% in 2016, 4.8% in 2018, projected to grow 6.4% in 2019.
Now, if your cameraman can zoom onto this, it is his own data. This is the budget. Is that not the budget? Good. If you can zoom in on this table, this graph here that he's plotted, Just zoom in. Are you getting it? Good. That is it. So look at the thin line that is running through. You see from 2014, it was somewhere here. Agri grew up to 2017. You see the growth? After 2017, you see where it is going? It has declined all the way to this level. It is not my graph.
But how do you reconcile that with his statement in paragraph 32 of the
But if he's lying in
delivered?
paragraph 32, why should I be the one be worried about that? He's not speaking to the data he has published. He's speaking to what he wants to say.
Sorry, but I don't think you should be saying
he's lying. You may not be.
I don't think you should be saying he's lying.
Well, if he's saying something that is not supported by his own facts, why should I be the one worried about that? Because he has given you a graph that shows the growth of his agriculture sector. And you can see that the graph is showing that there is a consistent decline. Why do I have to? Look, the graph is showing you.
What are the figures on the graph?
No, I'm coming. He himself, even in the report, says that. Mr. Speaker, this.
You got the wrong graph.
No, it's not. I'm coming.
Yeah, damn Smith.
No. Agriculture. I said, Mr. Speaker, growth in agriculture sector was 2.2% and 3.3% in the first quarter and second quarter, respectively, compared to 4.7% and 4.5%. Okay? Are you saying that 4.5 of the previous year, 4.7 of the previous year, now moving to 2.2 and 3.1 is not a decline? And this graph, the graph here, is a continuation of this paragraph. And the continuation of the paragraph now shows you what he has actually plotted, which is confirming a decline in agriculture output in terms of growth. Not a decline in output, but a decline in the growth. And this is when you claim you have spent a lot of money on agriculture through planting for food and jobs. And you are now quoting data and graphing it to show that there's a decline in growth. I am not the one saying it. So if he now goes to another paragraph and he says something else, that is his own cup of tea.
He also tells us about the financial sector growth, but you say it's been a negative growth.
Okay. So the financial sector, Chief, I beg, if you can zoom this one too. That's his own data. It's not mine.
That's page.
This is page 22. There's a graph there. Okay. I think table 5.
Okay.
Just zoom on it.
Yes. Go ahead and make your statement as they do so.
What he is saying here, financial sector, source, Ghana Statistical Service. He says that in 2017, agriculture, financial and industrial grew by negative 17.7. It grew by negative 8.2, and now it is about negative 12.6. It's not my data. That is Ken Oforiata's data. Now he goes in another paragraph and he says something else. That is his problem. But the facts here don't support the things he's saying in that paragraph. And why should I be the one answering that? Ken should be answering and be reconciling what he's saying there to this data. Okay?
We have groups like the AGI who have said that, who are full of applause for this budget, suggesting that it gives predictability for the 2020 year.
The AGI is in the business of manufacturing, right? It's in the business of manufacturing.
That's right.
Again, zoom in on the manufacturing sector here. Just zoom in on the manufacturing sector. It's not my data, it is Ken Oforiata's data in his budget. Okay. What the data is saying is that manufacturing, okay, 2016, 7.9%. 2017, when they were sleeping, 9.5%. 2018, 4.1%, and now 4%. And you are saying AGI says when they are declining in growth, they are excited. Well, they can be excited. But they were the very people who were complaining about the benchmark rates, right? So the data here does not suggest that anything is being fixed. I try so hard to look at the numbers for our external sector, to understand what our import levels are looking at, to understand what our export levels are looking at, to understand how our reserves, particularly gross reserves and our net international reserves are performing, to see the rate at which we are getting flows, okay, from the external sector, to support whether or not the city is doing better or worse, and to see where the city is in terms of its trajectory. Let me go. Look at
yeah, but you should be taking a breather on that, and then I'll go around.
Let me just end this one. Let me just land this. So the external sector development, I go to page 25. External sector is about those matters I've raised. Okay, kind of Foriata now goes to page 25, and he's talking about the external sector. I want to show you what he's talking about.
Take your time.
No, it's important that you
That's
see
destroying your
external
data.
sector. Again, just zoom in on external sector. Then you see this document is full of deception, and I want the people of Ghana to see it for what it is. Good. That's the external sector. You see why he's talking about the external sector? He say update on excess capacity challenges in the energy sector. That is the external sector for him. It's not about imports. It's not about exports. It's not about capital flows. It's not about international reserves. It's not about net international reserves. It's about the energy sector. I come through the entire section, and there is no word on the external sector. So this document, is this thing talking about energy sector or the external sector? And in the entire document, you don't find him give us the external sector development. Then he goes in another paragraph to say that the CD depreciation has slowed, and you don't know where he's getting the data. But the data is available from Bank of Ghana. And the data from Bank of Ghana is saying that when the CD depreciated by only 4.8% in 2017 when they were sleeping, by 2018 when they assumed the full reins of power, it went up to 8.8, almost doubling. And as of September this year, the CD has depreciated by 9.2%. In other words, the CD depreciation we saw in the beginning of the year that we were complaining was around 5% and we're complaining. Now it is exacerbated by 9.2. Now show me how a movement from 4.8 to 8.8 to 9.2 is a slowdown of depreciation. But he goes to a paragraph and says something that is not consistent with the data, and he consciously does not provide the data in this document.
Okay, you hold on there for me. I don't know, but if I may just ask this, are you saying that this budget document you are reading, you are unable to find anything that projects accuracy about forward movement of the economic management?
You see, the projection about the forward movement of the economy is even problematic. I'll show you several other things. If you want me to show you.
No, I just wanted a brief statement. I'll go to Dr. Said. Yeah. I'll come to you later.
The challenge after, you remember that we issued a Eurobond of 11 billion, of 2 billion to support the budget. That is a deficit financing. Okay, if you multiply $2 billion by just 5.5, you get $11 billion. Okay, 11 billion Ghana cedis. All right. The man says that his domestic financing of the budget is about 9.5 billion. Okay, and you borrowed 11 billion from external sources. If you add this to this, what figure are you getting? You are getting over 20 billion. He goes on to say that his foreign financing is about 5.3 billion. It is difficult to reconcile these numbers. Clearly, the deficit has been cooked. Because 11 billion added to the numbers we are seeing for foreign or even the domestic financing cannot be giving you that figure. So how come you have borrowed to finance the budget and it is not appearing in your deficit? So I am saying that the deficit that we are looking at is already at dangerous levels for Ken Ofori-Atta because of the potential of going to jail for breaching the Fiscal Responsibility Act. And it is the reason we are not getting. The language is what it is.
Economic, cooked, jail.
The Fiscal Responsibility Act. The Fiscal Responsibility Act has criminal punishment.
Yes, if you go past 5%.
For the minister?
Yes.
If you go past 5%. And you are saying he has done beyond 5%.
He's already showing 4.7%.
So he's not gone 5%.
And I'm showing you that 4% is because that 11 billion, we don't see it. If you add that 11 billion to the borrow that he has borrowed domestically to finance the budget, or even the external financing of about 5.3, you are heading towards almost 20 billion. So if 15 billion is giving you 4.7%, it means that to hit the 5%, you have only 0.3%. Meanwhile,
okay, hold on there. Thank you. You've been speaking for some 15 minutes now. And Dr. Said, I don't know. Sorry to start you on this note. Having listened to you know, Isaac, from the issues of the manufacturing area, the agricultural subsector, the finance subsector, and he's taking us to the energy sector as well. And the way he's interpreting or looking at the figures, I'm lost, because it doesn't reflect the statement I have read and the notes I have made from the statement.
You know, politicians always do political things. They always try to interpret numbers to suit their interpretations.
Okay, so show us how he has done that.
I'm not targeting him.
Okay.
That's what they do. And I guess if our friend over here also speaks, perhaps he will start from a different perspective.
That's why you are here.
And I don't want to enter into their argument.
Okay.
You see, I want to assess the budget, the doability of what the government has proposed to do, and the efficiency involved. Can the country move forward with what they have brought? These are things that are necessary. Not we have done that, we did that. That will not take us anywhere.
Okay. So can we move from taxation to production?
Taxation to production. You know, moving from taxation to production means grow the economy so that we don't tax you more. First of all, you realize that certain taxes were increased along the way. So you realize that that slogan is not working so well. But the question is, the budget they brought, how accurate is it? To what extent will it solve Ghana's problem? You see, budget has two sections, revenue and expenditure. This revenue thing, they are projected. How accurate is it? The expenditure, you are trying to spend to try to influence the economy. To what extent will it influence the economy?
Yeah, so you tell us, how accurate is it?
So let's see the revenue, accuracy of the revenue projection.
Yeah.
In 2018, they did total revenue and grants of 15.8% of GDP. 2019, they said, no, they were going to do better than that. So they projected 17.1% of GDP for total revenue and grants. In the mid-year, they said, we can't do that. Let's marginally cut it down. So they brought it down to 17.0% of GDP for 2019. The projected outcome is telling us that they can only collect 15.8%, the same ratio they did in 2018. Seeing this, perhaps you take a lesson from it. And your 2020 projection, you have to match it along what you've been able to do. They have reprojected 16.9, which is similar to the 17.0. You did 15.8 2018. You did 15.8 2019. 2019, you said you were going to do 17.0. You couldn't. What makes you think that you can now do 16.9, which is similar to, 17.0? And you also know that during election years, in many instances, revenue suffers. A case in point is 2016. Revenue couldn't grow. So first of all, the total revenue and grant projection they have made is on the high side. It has a very strong downward risk. And as usual, they will find it difficult to meet, and if they are unable to meet it, what do? Expenditure is the target. And that's where the problem is. Which component of expenditure do they target? The essential one that will expand the future potential of the country, public investment. You see, so this is the difficulty the country is in. We cannot increase our revenue, and you want to manage. Of course, first of all, let me tell you that I, on the aggregate, I appreciate what they do. That if revenue is not coming in, they try to fix expenditure to meet it in order not to overrun the budget, which is good. But look at the expenditure dynamics and make sure that your allocational decisions are as efficient as possible. You don't just go ahead and cut, public spending, because that is easy to cut. The government is supposed to take very serious decisions, take bitter pill that in the short term may not be palatable, but in the future will expand the future potential of the country, growth and development. If they don't do that, and they continue to do business as usual, I tell you, the future of this country doesn't have much prospect.
Your suggestion is that they are doing business as usual?
Of course, they are.
We thought that this government was taking some really very bold steps, including this huge expenditure, basket for free SHS and all.
You see, giving something for free. I thought you were going to ask me a question. You have put 20 billion into people's pocket. Giving something for free is very easy. In an economy that is cash-strapped, do you go about praising yourself for being able to give things for free?
But you are energizing the economy for a future, exponential growth. You are growing your youth. You are giving them education, which is the most important to grow an economy.
Maybe you are trying to
that's the best investment, is that not?
You are trying to reduce it to the free SHS. But if you want
that's the example I'm using.
Okay, let's look at the free SHS. Look at infrastructure. There has been an estimate of a very huge infrastructure deficit. During rainfall, rainy season, where the food comes from, you cannot even get the food to the market. So, the very serious problem with infrastructure. Look at education sector. There's already surplus in the system. People with high schools are not getting colleges to attend.
I mean, people with high grades, good grades.
Good grades. People with high school diploma, certificate, cannot find jobs. People with university education, trained education, cannot find jobs. There's surplus in there in that sector. How do you, allocate resources from where there is shortage and spend it in an area where there is surplus? What kind of economic decision is that?
So you have a NAPCO which is taking as much as almost 10,000 of these numbers, helping them to, make a living and also get some skills.
NAPCO is good if the people are actually put to work.
They are working. Are you not aware? Like the revenue area, you must be aware. Revenue area, those who are helping with tax, they are working. Now almost everywhere, they are all the place.
Some are working. Yeah. Some are working. You have to understand that. But I understand. So many people have been posted to certain places that there's no work to do. There's no work to do. In certain offices, about 10 NACO people have been placed there, and they are sitting down, but they are being paid. You see, this country, and I don't mean this government alone, we have to take efficiency, the word efficiency. You can spend your money now. You can pursue populist policies. Try to say, I'm putting money in people's pocket, but if you don't consider efficiency, look at your revenue generation. How can you manipulate it efficiently to get more? Look at your expenditure. What is bringing you down? There's so much inflexibility. 3 expenditure items consuming everything.
And the
How
policies,
can you make a room?
And the policies they are working at and talking about consolidating gains for growth, jobs, and security. Which one do you find to be populist?
You see, we were debating.
Because you use the word populist, you can be
populist in the sense that the free
policies.
things you say you are providing, some of them are populist. You are putting money into your pocket. You see, let the economy
programs
work.
And policies.
Let the economy work so that the economy itself will generate jobs for people. The government artificially creating jobs is not the solution.
1D, 1F.
1D1
is going on.
Oh,
you have dams that are being sunk around the place. Yes.
You are jamming so many things. 1D1F is a good policy.
You said let the economy work. That's why I pointed you to 1D, 1F and the dams that are being created.
Let me say, 1D1 word is a good policy. And what I like about it is that it's not the government even putting its money in there. That's what they told us. Yeah. It is the private sector. And if the private sector will come in to help us create jobs, won't you commend the government? That's a very commendable one. But it is not all these initiatives that have the same character. They have different characteristics. I mean those that are populist, that you are just merely trying to put money in people's pockets without considering efficiency issues.
We have a major infrastructure takeoff, particularly for roads and all, that will improve bringing food from hinterlands to the market. Sino-Hydro is bringing us how much?
If it takes place. Last year you were told.
You are doubtful?
You are trying to make me speak as if I'm the opposition person.
You are doubtful
instead of making us analyze the budget.
You don't have to speak as an opposition person. You are an expert.
You see, let's analyze, go to expenditure, revenue projections and others and see whether it will work or not. But of course, last year, you see, they announced that they were going to construct so many roads, infrastructure year. Let's look at public investment numbers. Last year, they projected 8 billion.
About 8.5.
About 8.5 billion. The projected item says that they can only spend about 6 billion. It was infrastructure year. Did you see it? Of course, perhaps they were counting on the side of hand, though. It is good that it has now been finally approved. And for after 2020, you will see certain projects going on. It's good. But the question is, within this budget, what room does the government have to be able to spend on investment to expand the prospects of this country?
There's not?
You don't see it.
Why is that?
One, revenue is not growing. Two, expenditure is bogged down into 3 expenditure items.
Why is that too? Why is revenue not growing? Why is expenditure bogged down into 3 items?
On revenue side, this country has a very serious difficulty in the sense that revenue, whenever we talk about revenue, we are always looking at taxes. And I tell people, taxes is a mere transfer payment or transfer receipt to the government. You are taking money from individuals and companies and give it to the government. To some extent, it is essential, it is necessary in certain areas, especially when you're looking at public goods provision. But when you overtax the people, you depend too much on taxation, you may be killing the private sector because you are taking resources from companies who are known to spend more effectively than the government.
You are not saying that the companies and people are being overtaxed?
So you shouldn't look at trying to always increase the tax. Look at our natural resources endowment. Since the 1990s, gradually this country has been losing. I'm not saying this government alone, both of the parties. Since the 1990s, Asante Gold Company or corporation at that time belonged to the government. And it was mining gold that the country was selling. Now, it doesn't belong to Ghana anymore. It is a South African company. How much does Ghana rake in from the mining sector? Very minimal. We found oil in 2007. Largely, what we get out of it goes to the hands of the multinational companies. Only about 25% comes to us. And if you have this natural resource endowment, and the biggest portion of revenue from it goes outside, how will you be able to get revenue to develop your country? We have to sit down. These politicians have to sit down and think critically as to how we can capture back our interest in the mining and the oil sector. That is the revenue component.
Okay, you take a breather there.
Yeah.
Dr. Said there. So, yeah. So, look, and here is Dr. Said, not your politician and your opponents. Also, you know, looking at things from a perspective that doesn't give too much hope. So what do you say about this budget? But to start with, the question he mentioned about, you know, the Fiscal Responsibility Act. Yeah. The Fiscal Responsibility Act, is there criminal, you know, sanctions in there? Maybe he should help me too. I only thought that if there was any problem and the minister exceeded, Parliament will activate Article 82(1) to pass a vote of censure on him. Okay.
But so that all our viewers are sure, because like Dr. Said said, if it's between us, he doesn't believe us.
Okay.
Just Google it. And read the relevant portion.
Okay. Because let me just clarify. Now listen. I just want to clarify.
Yeah, we need to settle that.
Assuming that the minister is out of office, what will censure do to him? So read the sections.
Which section? Which section of the fiscal responsibility?
Go to the content. Go to the content.
You now proceed. I'll look for it.
Go to the content timeline.
I'll look for it. Yeah, go ahead.
You see, every budget is projections. And the projections are based on a historical analysis. In setting it up, the historical analysis depends on data. Now, a very serious argument has been made here that the data is cooked. And the word cooked was used. The beautiful thing about what we do with the data and what we read in Parliament is that it's all on record. It's in a book, which he's showing us. And what was read in Parliament is on the Hansard. It is not just for the benefit of us sitting in this studio. There are international people. Decisions are taken on what has been read and said and what is being printed. And therefore, there is very little room for the kind of language that is being used here, cooked and criminal and all that. There are third-party assessors who are very, very serious about these matters because major decisions are taken on those matters. So for the record, I want to place it here, that data is not within the purview of the finance minister. Finance minister cannot come and tell us Anansi stories and walk away. It's a matter of record for third-party people who engage, including academics, business people who have to take decisions, as well as the international community who are our partners. So data matters are serious. Indeed, I want to avoid politicization because he's afraid of politicians. But the only government on record in this country to have paid a penalty for data manipulation is the NDC. The NDC cost us $38 million in data manipulation.
Which one is that?
You have forgotten. You have forgotten.
Which
The
one is that?
Kufuor government had to pay $38 million because the NDC manipulated figures and the IMF found them out. The IMF found them out. It is on record. But let's move beyond that. So what I'm saying there is that data manipulation, words like cooked, criminal, they are not ordinary funny things you say to buttress a political argument. They are factual things that third parties depend on. Having said that, what budget do we have here? A budget that tells its own story. It is consolidating gains made. And those gains are for growth, they are for jobs, and they are for prosperity for all. That is exactly what this budget delivers and promises to deliver going forward. And let's look at some of the indices for these three things the budget is saying. First of all, the IMF test. It feeds into the data situation. This is an economy that we are being told went to sleep in 2017 and grew.
Government slept, not the economy.
Who was asleep?
Government slept.
Exactly. Economies don't stop at once because a regime left.
Yeah, exactly.
The indices, the workings of the economy are ongoing. It is the management of it which changes. And consistently, the NPP have been better managers of this economy.
The point he was making was that within the period you had come into office, for 2017 more particularly, you didn't do anything to add to the growth that was experienced. You simply inherited it.
Managing the resources, the economy we inherited in order to realign it and get back on track.
So his suggestion is that, for
endorsed by
example,
the
when he
IMF.
takes a Greg, he's saying, and the manufacturing sector, he's saying that for the period that you had not, as it were, taken control, there was good growth. But suddenly, when you were beginning to take over, then there's negative growth for the banking sector, declining, negative for banking sector, declining growth for the agric, and then for manufacturing.
In some way, we couldn't have taken charge. The IMF was there. We inherited an economy which had the IMF feeding us intravenously. By 2016, the IMF was insisting that in spite of their therapy, the economy was going down. The mid-year review of 2017 is very, very clear. Again, you can't dispute the IMF. The IMF is the NDC's favorite big brother. The IMF ran this economy for the NDC in Ghana for several years, particularly the intervening years where we drifted from the revolution into liberal democracy. The IMF ran this economy for them and the World Bank. They believe in them. In 2014, when the banking sector had collapsed, they were told by the World Bank and the IMF, work on it. They ran to them and said, give us the solutions. From that time up to 2016, the IMF told the whole world that the economy was not improving. So, by 2017, the IMF story had changed. What was the difference? The difference was that there was a new government in charge. The difference was that management of the economy had changed. And what I'm trying to say is that you don't need to have invested your own money that you found before the economy changes. What you came to meet is a running economy. except that it was running negatively. So you can turn it around. You can turn it around. And we did that immediately to the extent that the IMF endorsed what we were doing, and by April 2019, they had enough confidence in our management to leave us. So that's the first step. 2, this budget is made in the context of a post-IMF situation. So it's a test for us. We are not about to fail the test in election year and go back to the IMF post-election. That means
that's good news.
That means, yes, it's a budget.
If you can keep that.
Oh, of course we will.
Of
course we will.
That's good.
It is a budget that is tightly constrained in its expectations and in its projections. That is why it begins by consolidating the gains. You consolidate because you don't want to mismanage where you are and fail the tests. So we are moving beyond the election boom and bust. We are not going to spend money by heart, like some spent 600 million in 2012 and managed to collapse the economy by 2014. We had to go to the IMF. We are not going to do that. We are going to spend within our limitations, which means within the revenue envelope that we are able to generate, as well as with our foreign partners. We are going to do that. Now, even more interesting is that we have been bold enough to pass a Fiscal Responsibility Act. And we are saying that in this election year, that is the major test of our financial management capacity. As a government, we have put in law that we are not going to spend beyond 5% of the deficit. And the finance minister has referred to that in the budget, and we intend to keep to that. All data, all figures.
He's suggesting that there's a backdoor attempt to reduce the expenditure so that you don't hit the
Adam Smith,
the punishable
Adam
level.
Smith.
They have already crossed
You see,
5%.
Adam Smith makes very wild allegations.
You
are the one who said
Baumia is the only Adam Smith in Ghana.
I am now replacing it to you, Adam Smith.
Well, I know you miss him here.
I know who Adam Smith. You see, when he says those things and throws those words about, that's why I began by talking about data certainty. He has a responsibility to demonstrate those figures and demonstrate them accurately. The last time they threatened that, let me just go back. Before the budget's ready, they had a pre-budget press conference where they made all sorts of allegations. None of those things happened in the budget.
What did we say?
Then they threatened that post-budget, they were going to come out with the real state of the economy. What has happened? We are looking at mini press conferences on roads and health, ambulance distribution and all that. They haven't been able to come out with anything negative.
Yes, but the ambulance distribution.
Let me not get diverted.
That sounds some way.
Let me not get diverted. Let me not get diverted. Let me focus
we
on.
have 305 ambulances, according to the minister, that we have been able to bring in, and we have how many of them sitting at the Parliament House?
We'll put trackers in them and distribute them.
And you are waiting when to distribute.
We'll put trackers in them.
They can be put to use now.
Let's take focus on
the argument is that you are seeking for political gain, capital, to distribute them during the elections.
I'm a lawyer economist, so I was flying on
on the law side.
I was flying on the economy. I'm just about taking cruises. You're taking me back to ambulances.
You brought ambulances.
Let me focus on cruising speed, then I can get back to ambulances. I beg you.
Okay.
So, the Fiscal Responsibility Act is real, and we are committed to it. Very critically, the finance minister says we are going to pay for the election. So is it within the constraints of our revenue? Is it based on imaginative arrangements with our partners? Is it something that is going to deal with the deficit and move it beyond 5%? That's a very important argument for me, because election expenditure is massive. So you should be interrogating how we pay for the election and stay balanced, because we are running a balanced budget. For me, that's very significant.
Balanced budget.
In spite of all this, in spite of all that,
balanced budget.
Please, I said,
I want to be sure.
Maintain our balance. We talk about balanced budget. We are not in the American Senate. I'm talking about how we maintain our balance. Now, in spite of all this, something, we are meeting our ongoing obligations to our flagships. That's where we have put 12.2 billion in our pockets. We are meeting all our obligations to our flagships. We are meeting the obligation to educate people and to decide. Without education, we lose on mines and mineral resources.
There's already education going on.
It's not sufficient. It's not sufficient. So we are investing in education. We are investing in debt management. because we are investing in debt management, we've managed to stabilize our debt profile and brought it below the danger levels. We are investing in stabilizing the financial sector. Without a working financial sector, you cannot move this economy forward. So we have invested serious money in the financial sector. We are investing in 1D, 1F, and it's paying off already. 1D, 1F has produced over 10,000 direct jobs and a little over 43,000 indirect jobs. Already, over 10,000 direct jobs. And our biggest problem is jobs. Everybody knows that. We are investing further in jobs. We have created NAPCO. We have paid. We have absorbed nurses who are at home. We are investing in farmers, subsidies in planting for food and jobs. What do you call it? Teacher training and nursing training allowances. We are investing in all these things, which we promise to do, not because they are populist, but because they go to elevate the lifestyle of the population. They go to meet a need.
Yeah.
There's a need for employment in this
there's something
country.
that's come up briefly, and you also mentioned the ambulance thing. So if you can speak briefly about that, because people are concerned about it, that you have ambulances sitting there,
yes,
and the claim is that there's some tracker that has to be fixed, and it cannot be fixed until whenever. And the ambulances have been sitting there for how long now? And it does appear strategically, you're waiting, then we take over, we get into elections, and then you present them in a way that will gain votes. What do you say about that? But on the issue of the Fiscal Responsibility Act, Isaac Adongo, I think you are wrong. The provision is that, I think this is in section 4? It says that Parliament may, in accordance with Article 82 of the Constitution, pass a vote of censure on the minister where the minister breaches Section 2 by more than 1 percentage point. 1 percentage point. So it is a censure and not a criminal punishment. All right, thank you very much. Yes, so...
something. The Minister for Special Development Initiatives has spoken. The Minister of Health has spoken.
They say what?
The fundament, they talked about trackers, bringing all the equipment in and trackers. My information, as I sit here this morning, was that there were several still to be cleared, and there were a few more on the high seas, and that would be important to assemble them together and put in the trackers. But assuming, without admitting, that they are not going to be distributed before the election, this is an important social intervention that has been taken responsibly. We had a situation where the same attempt ended up in tin cans with engines being brought into the country and paid for. Tin cans with engines being brought into the country and paid for. We were not able to distribute them. We were not even able to conclude the entire importation. These are solid machines that will end up with the people irrespective of the time and end up properly with the appropriate technology to track their use. So for the people of Ghana, the important thing is that have we met a social need? And that social need is that, yes, we have brought in an ambulance.
Yes, we are all happy about that.
Exactly.
That's why we want them distributed, because people are dying, lives are being lost because of absence of ambulances.
Mea culpa, we are going to distribute them. Mea culpa, we are going to distribute them. Now, let's go back to the economy. Fundamentals. Is it true that inflation is at 7.6%, the lowest in 27 years? Is it true? Is it true that the treasury bill rate has fallen to 14.7%, and that because of that, the likelihood of dragging down lending rates is high? As we speak, personal lending rates have dropped from 33% to hover between 20 to 24%. Is it true? Is it true that economic growth is strongly positioned and that we are hovering between 6 to 6.7%? And that if our sectoral growth rates were negative, we wouldn't be recording 7% overall growth? Is it true? Is it true that at this point in time, our fiscal deficit is only 4.5%? So if these things are true, that means our macro framework is very sound.
Okay, I take a quick break, and when I return, we'll also find out, is it true or not that the fishing sector, apart from the manufacturing and agriculture sectors that we have spoken about, growth in the fishing sector our fisheries sector also recorded a growth rate of negative 6% for the first 4 quarters of 2019, worsening livelihoods in fishing communities. Growth in the construction sector also saw contraction, averaging negative 8.5% in the first 2 quarters, 2019. And Ghana has dropped 4 points on the World Bank's Ease of Doing Business Index due to high tax payment and standard of living of Ghanaians said to be deteriorating as a result of 50% increment in the price of fuel, ever depreciating CD, 50% increment in CST, and other taxes. We'll be right back. You're welcome back. This is Newsfile, and this is the second segment where we are looking at the budget. And earlier, some issues had come up about some slip or mistake that had been made. And I was saying earlier to my friends quietly that, but for the partisanship that is leading some of us to know, they would have quietly whispered to the minister that there's some small error or omission, and he would have come to fix it. But they made a whole political game out of it. And there were people who were also denying, and then the next day, the minister was in parliament trying to correct the thing that people were denying had not happened. Okay, so I'll get your very brief views in conclusion, but when you speak about, for example, the banking sector, and you talk about, you know, the growth in that area, the question that some would like to know is, what exactly do you mean when you are talking about that growth? Are you talking about growth as in assets, as in profits, credits, or what exactly are you talking about? Because after the cleanup, there is clear evidence of some very good thing that we should be proud of. In 2017, the value added to the financial sector was around negative 17%. It drastically reduced to a small negative in 2018. In 2019, that's post the cleanup, if you look at the financial statements and profits declared by the financial institution, so far, it looks like there's no doubt that the value added will be significantly positive. So what exactly are you looking at when you say the growth in the area has been negative?
I'm really constrained by time, you know, yes. It's a very huge subject. And, but I just wanted to say that free SHS so far, we spend just about 2.4 billion Ghana cedis on free SHS. We are projecting to spend just about 1.8 billion out of 85 billion Ghana cedis. So investment in free SHS is overflocked, and it should not be something that anybody should be talking about.
Okay.
1D1F, 2017, there was no spending. 2018, and I have a report from the Ministry of Trade and Industry when we met them last week. They budgeted for 400 million for 1D1F. Only 67 million was released. I cannot see how would be a game changer in the industrial sector. Flagship project, last year they spent just 35 million Ghana cedis on all the flagship projects under special initiative. So all these things are just being overflocked, but there's nothing really in it, and you can't find any money there. But
really?
Yes. These are facts. So
2020 doesn't look good for you?
Chief, that's why I'm coming here. You see, you just spoke about the banking sector, total assets. To measure the growth of a banking sector that has gone through reform, you measure what has happened after the reform. Is that not what you do? Good. Total banking assets increased from 105 billion to 115 billion. Now, that 115 billion include existing assets of the 13 billion they issued in bonds to cover the previous deposits. So it is not new growth. You take it out. When you take it out, the banking sector assets would have grown by just about 7% in 9 months. In 9 months, banking sector assets. But you will notice quite instructively that after April, between April, May, June, July, banking sector assets remain flat. It doesn't grow. Why? Deposits. Again, you will find that consistently for 3 months, the deposit doesn't grow. It remains in the same place. In 2019, when you have finished the cleanup, that's what I'm saying.
You say why, but you didn't provide the answer.
Because there's no confidence in the sector. And you see, the reason why it is even dangerous is because now the financial sector now is not deepened. It's now been reduced to just the banking sector. Because the savings and loan sector, nobody wants to put money there. Microfinance, nobody wants to put money there. Fund management company, nobody wants to put money there. So where do you expect the money to go? Okay. The money should be going to the banking sector. All and therefore, you should be seeing a growth in deposits. So even when these people are collapsing, your deposit, there are quite a number of them. That's why I say I'm very constrained.
Yeah, I'm sorry, but we have run out of time. Yeah. And so Dr. Said, looking into 2020 and the budget as presented, are we not to be excited looking at the figures that are projected, growth that are supposed to hit between 6.7 thereabout and all, non-oil GDP and all?
You see, if you're looking at the economy in the short term, especially since we are getting assurances that they are not going to overrun the budget, it's not a big deal.
Do we have the history where in an election year we have not overrun the budget?
In 2004.
Okay, that's all?
That's all.
Okay.
But when my friend from the government side spoke, it is as if everything is fine. That is what I want us to understand. That the country is in a situation that something fundamental needs to be done. You see, the fiscal position is what of self-generating fiscal situation now. That's what the country. Okay. It is self-generating. The deficit is self-generating.
Right.
Let's look at 2019 budget.
Yeah.
You see,
we have run out, so we want your global picture of.
In 2019, for instance, you see, the country's spent 22.4 billion on compensation alone. Debt service 30.4 billion. EMR fund 13 billion. Added together 66 billion. The country got raked in 54 billion. Distress expenditure item 66 billion. So it is self-generating deficit situation. Anything the government promises, the country has to borrow. And this debt service expenditure is 56% of total revenue and grants. And you keep on borrowing.
Your conclusion is that?
The conclusion is that something drastic needs to be done. You have to take long-term decisions.
The economy is in trouble.
Of course, if revenue doesn't expand so much and nothing is done to the expenditure, the economy is in trouble in the long term.
But do you have confidence about the management so far?
They are not tackling it. In fact, 2017 they did well.
All right. So yeah, and as we have come to know, even the economists have a way of picking the figures and looking at them from different perspectives. He looks at the banking sector, and I was asking the questions. He looks at the assets, for example. He won't look at the profits. Okay, so he's able to make a calculation that gives you a negative.
Things. You didn't have time.
Yeah.
So I would have come to the profit.
Something drastic is being done about revenue generation.
Okay.
GRA reformation, otherwise. So something drastic is being done. Property taxes and others, all those things are being looked at because the government is conscious about the challenges in the revenue sector. Something drastic is being done. 2, this is the year of roads, and roads have a way of stimulating economies. Roads stimulate economies. Once we are focused on delivering the critical roads, we will stimulate the economy within the fiscal deficit that we've set ourselves, and our flagship programs will keep going. We are managing the economy better than the NDC.
Okay. Thank you very much, and that is all time will allow us. Thank you all very much. Wabinga Samoa is MP and Director of Communications of the NPP. Dr. Said Boache is Senior Research Fellow, Institute for Fiscal Studies, and Isaac Adongo is MP and Member, Finance Committee of Parliament. And I checked some people commenting on my pronunciation of your name. That's Gruni, that's what I speak. If I don't pronounce it correctly, my people will murder me. It's Adongo. It's Adongo, it's not Adongo.
Are you going to be challenging him for this?
Thanks to Dr. Michael Kwesa-White, Justice Sremsai, and Abdul Malik Kwekubako for the first segment as well. I'm Samson Ladi Ayanini. Thank you very much. See you again next week, God willing, with another interesting edition. My outfit, as always, is by Latida.